Chapter 209. The moment Immortal Toya saw Wang Ling, his mind went blank. Fortunately, he didn't have the habit of falling on flat ground. Otherwise, this old stone statue at number 60 high school's gate, which had stood erect for nearly 1,000 years, would have completely collapsed. And it wasn't just that. With number 60 high as the center, the tremors could be felt for dozens of li around it. A soul formation cultivator tripping was such a terrifying thing. But Immortal Toya quickly remembered, because grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had told him that Senior Ling was currently studying at a high school. And it seemed that his goal was to experience life. It was just that the young man had never expected Senior Ling to actually choose such an ordinary-looking high school, which wasn't even a key city high school. However, a big boss was a big boss after all. Ordinary people could not figure out what a big boss was thinking. Perhaps this was the gap between him and Senior Ling. Immortal Toya sighed quietly in his heart. Headmaster Chun had been waiting at the entrance of the school building for a long time. When he saw Immortal Toya suddenly stop in the line of students, he hurriedly came down the steps to greet him. "Immortal, what's wrong?" Hearing Headmaster Chen's question, the gray-haired young man immediately came to his senses. Seeing that Headmaster Chun was staring at him with a puzzled expression, he immediately shook his head. "Oh, it's nothing. It's just a little emotional." Of course, he wouldn't divulge anything about Senior Ling. It had to be said that Immortal Toya's reaction was very quick. Words like this, which touched on the scene, were actually quite appropriate in a place like a school. How many cultivators who had started cultivating couldn't even find their alma mater now? After Huaxiao Nation was founded, most of the sects set up by individual cultivators had already been disbanded, and only a very small number of them had obtained a license from the government to be classified as light forces. So even if it wasn't because of Wang Ling, the young man was still a little touched. After all, number 60 high school was a 1,000-year-old school. At 8 o'clock in the morning, number 60 high's bus fleet set off on time. On the way, Little Peanut had raised a very constructive question about the equipment that had been scattered on the map during the survival drill this time. That was because the equipment everyone had used in the previous Spirit Sword exchange meet between number 59 high school and number 60 high school had been designed by General E. This was a good question. An old antique had initially planned to answer it when they got there. But now that someone had brought it up, there was no harm in explaining it along the way. The magic treasures distributed on the map for the survival drill this time were also made up by General E, but they're all genuine. Because of our 6 schools' joint military training this time, plus this survival drill, General E had actually already found someone to specially make a batch of magic treasures 3 months ago. Because the map this time is bigger, there are tens of thousands of custom-made magic treasures, Old Antique explained. Tens of thousands? Many people in the bus exclaimed. Among these tens of thousands of magic treasures, even those low-quality magic treasures that were placed on the map to make up the numbers could be mass-produced in just 3 months. This was truly incredible. Cupping his chin in his hand, Master of Dopey pushed up his glasses and seemed to think of something. "As far as I know, there are currently only 2 factories in Huaxiao that can mass-produce magic treasures." "Which 2? Super Chen asked. Dopey Gua answered with a straight face, Lanxiang and New East. Super Chen was startled. "Doesn't one of them operate excavators, and the other teach English?" "They've changed classes." Dopey Gua spread his hands. "Nowadays, operating excavators and teaching English don't make money. Any golden core cultivator can tear down a building with one punch. Why would they need excavators? And teaching English? Ever since our Huaxiao people stood up, the whole world has been speaking Huaxiao. Everyone." After about an hour on the road, number 60 high finally arrived at a military training base in the western suburbs of Huaxiao Nation. The military training this time would last 5 days. And the most important survival drill would officially begin the day after tomorrow. Today was the day when students from the 6 schools would gather at the military base. As the 2 large iron gates, which were dozens of meters wide, slowly opened, the bus slowly drove into the base. This was a military training base that Songhai city government had specially set up for the city's students, and it had all kinds of facilities. There were school buildings, dormitories, a large sports field, and cube-shaped training rooms that gave off a technological feel. The dormitories during the military training were all 6-person, and Wang Ling, Super Chun, Dopey Gua and Little Peanut were assigned to one room. As luck would have it, they were assigned to room 101 on the first floor of the dormitory. But the strange thing was that Wang Ling saw that there were only 4 of their names on the list of names in room 101. Were the other 2 beds empty? Wang Ling denied this conjecture. It shouldn't be possible, because all the other dormitories were occupied by 6 people. Furthermore, they were in the first room of this dormitory, so it was completely impossible for there to be 2 empty spots in the first room. Dopey Gua, who had the honor of being dormitory leader this time, had to organize the military supplies, so he dragged Super Chin away. Wang Ling and Little Peanut took the keys to the door of the dormitory. As they approached, Little Peanut could already sense the aura in the room. There was someone inside. There seems to be someone inside, Little Peanut said weakly. In fact, Wang Ling had sensed it as soon as he stepped into the building. He could sense that the person was lurking in the dormitory, and that it was a premeditated act. Most importantly, he was very familiar with this person's aura. Wang Ling gestured for Little Peanut to stand next to the door. Then he inserted the key and turned the handle. As soon as the door opened, a large shadow instantly shot out from inside. Classmate Wang Ling, watch out! Little Peanut almost instantly cried out in alarm at the sight of this massive hidden weapon. Wang Ling's expression was very calm in the face of this black shadow that was shooting straight at him. The moment it approached him, he turned to the side and perfectly dodged it. Then there was a boom. This black shadow directly went through the door and smashed into the wall in front of the dormitory. When the dust settled, Little Peanut could finally see clearly that this black shadow that looked like a hidden weapon was actually a person. The person had been wearing a helmet when he had been shot out of the dormitory, and because the impact had been too great, his entire head had been embedded in the wall. Then, Little Peanut saw the person struggle for a long time, but still couldn't free himself from the helmet. Little Peanut. In the end, the young man in the helmet weakly cried for help. Ling, I was wrong. Come and save me. Chapter 210. Wang Ling felt that the military training this time had given him a little too many pleasant surprises. Not only was Immortal Toya the chief instructor, even Wang Ming had actually appeared. So the question was, why was Wang Ming here? And whose bed was the only one left in the room? As he pondered these questions, Wang Ling looked at Wang Ming, whose entire head was embedded in the wall along with his helmet. He sighed in his heart, then stretched out his hand to pry the wall open and very carefully pull Wang Ming out. Wang Ling felt that if he didn't pull Wang Ming out, it was very likely that the peripheral nerves in Wang Ming's body would die, and his brain would be suffocated. After all, the most valuable thing on Wang Ming's body was his brain. Although Wang Ling had always felt that this guy's IQ would go offline every time they met. Finally able to breathe in fresh air, Wang Ming lay on the ground and gasped for air. Then he sighed faintly and clenched his fists as he said resentfully, I never thought that the hammer sparks I've been planning for so long would actually fail. Wang Ling. Little Peanut. You're Wang Ling's classmate, right? Wang Ming dusted himself off, stood up, and shook Little Peanut's hand. I'm Wang Shower, a new transfer student. Please advise me. For some reason, Little Peanut's heart couldn't help trembling a little. A person who could transfer schools midway definitely wasn't ordinary, but Little Peanut hadn't sensed any aura on Wang Ming. His intuition told him that this was a very dangerous person. To actually be able to hide his aura so perfectly, this person had to be an expert. As Little Peanut and Wang Ming shook hands, his mind was filled with wild and fanciful thoughts. Wang Ling, you're thinking too much. Wang Ling gave the key to Little Peanut, then left an earth-calming talisman at the scene for Little Peanut to fill in the hole Wang Ming had made. He planned to find a secluded place to talk to Wang Ming alone. The dormitory building for the military training was public property. Leaving such a hole in it would definitely be held accountable for it. Wang Ling didn't want to be implicated and punished by the drill master to run laps. Tens of thousands of students from the 6 schools were watching, which was really too eye-catching. On the rooftop of the dormitory building, Wang Ling dragged Wang Ming and teleported here. After the sneak attack just now, Wang Ming finally took the helmet off his head. He then pointed at the spring launcher tied to his ankle, with an incredulous expression on his face. I obtained some primordial black crystal earlier, which is the hardest metal in the universe. I thought I could use it to knock you out. I didn't expect it to fail. Primordial mysterious crystal? Wang Ling stared at the helmet for a while, then stretched out his hand and with a crack, he crushed it in his hand. After a very long time, Wang Ming sighed sorrowfully in his heart. Sure enough, they were just brothers on the surface. Wang Ming wanted to cry but had no tears. Ling, can you give your brother some face? It makes me feel stupid every time I go on stage. Wang Ling didn't say anything. He just crossed his arms and narrowed his eyes as he looked at Wang Ming inquiringly. Even without telepathy, Wang Ming knew what Wang Ling wanted to ask. He immediately spread his hands. Don't look at me like that. I'm really here on business this time. General Yi found a factory to produce such a large batch of magic treasures in 3 months, so there might be some quality issues. So this time, I brought my own team here to wait and repair the magic treasures that were damaged during the drill. This was true. Wang Ming knew that Wang Ling had the mind-reading ability, so there was no need for him to lie in front of him. After understanding why Wang Ming was here, Wang Ling was actually a lot more relieved. After all, Wang Ming was a cultivation muggle, and number 60 High hadn't been very peaceful recently. If he really transferred to number 60 High to study, it would actually be quite dangerous. At this stage, accepting government protection was the best option for Wang Ming. Who knew when another younger sister of the Master of Shadow Stream would appear and abduct Wang Ming? To be honest, Wang Ling still had lingering fears after what had happened last time. If Wang Ming was gone, no one would be able to make the subsequent Dao Talisman seals, and even Wang Ling himself couldn't predict what would happen in the future. Now, as the 2 brothers stood on the rooftop, their hearts were in fact as clear as a mirror. That's right, Ling. There's something else I think you'll be very interested in, Wang Ming suddenly said. Although the main purpose of my research team this time is to repair the magic treasures, there's actually another side job. 2 years ago, our Academy of Science developed an instrument that can detect abnormal fluctuations in Huaxiao Nation. Recently, this instrument had detected a strange signal. Our initial assessment is that this signal has something to do with the gate between worlds. Hearing this, Wang Ling's eyes suddenly lit up, because this already wasn't his first time coming into contact with this gate that connected the 2 worlds of demons and demons. Furthermore, Wang Ling realized that there were actually a lot of people around him who were related to the gate between worlds. For example, Old Li and his group of people whom he had rescued 3 years ago, or Loopy Toad, who had fallen from the sky 6 years ago and had now turned into a dog. After the demon army withdrew 6 years ago, General Yi teamed up with 9 other generals to seal off the gate between worlds. Logically speaking, the gate between worlds shouldn't appear in the short term. The few times in history when the gate between worlds has appeared, it's been 100 years, or even several hundred years. When Wang Ming said this, he paused for a moment, and then gave his own assessment. So I think that the fluctuations from the gate between worlds this time definitely aren't normal. Also, I suspect that someone is summoning the gate between worlds to descend, and is planning to work together from the inside. Wang Ming's assessment was in fact well-founded, because the timing of the gate between worlds' reappearance indeed wasn't normal. What kind of person was General Yi? He was one of the 10 founding generals back then, and had an extremely high realm. Now, he was an extraterrestrial peace ambassador, who was often sent to mediate extraterrestrial wars. Even if General Yi had acted alone back then, it would have been enough to seal the gate between worlds for 100 years. But among the people who had worked together to seal it back then, there were still 9 people as awesome as General Yi. The 10 founding generals had worked together to seal it. Just how powerful was the seal? The goal was to ensure that Huaxiao Nation wouldn't be troubled by the gate between worlds for at least the next 1,000 years. But it had only been 6 years, and the gate between worlds had actually detected fluctuations again. What on earth was the reason behind this? Wang Ling's imagination ran wild. Actually, Wang Ling could already more or less guess who on earth was behind this. It was the person who most wanted to cause chaos, to cover up his reappearance. Chapter 211. Thus, Wang Ming's identity as a transfer student was just a cover. After this military training exercise ended, Wang Ming would disappear. After the two brothers met face to face on the rooftop, Wang Ling promised to erase the memories of the people around him after Wang Ming disappeared. As for the other empty bed in the room, Wang Ming had in fact deliberately used it as a cover. In fact, Wang Ming was the only one who had moved in. To avoid arousing suspicion, the drill instructors weren't allowed to live with the students during the military training period, and there was a separate dormitory for the drill instructors to live in. After Dopey Guo pulled Super Chen back with the military supplies, they saw that there was a new brother in the dormitory, and the two of them immediately started chatting with Wang Ming. It just so happened that a transfer student had come during the military training period and had been dragged into the military training. Both of them felt that Wang Ming's identity wasn't simple. The most important thing was that they actually couldn't sense any aura from Wang Ming. This aura concealing technique was really too powerful. If they used it in this survival drill, it would be a great weapon. In a situation where they couldn't sense any aura at all, Wang Ming could hide in the grass and wait for an opportunity to strike. He would definitely be an expert at playing dirty. Which school did this brother go to before? Super Chen was very curious about Wang Ming's identity. From Wang Ming, they had already learned that Wang Ling and Wang Ming were actually neighbors who used to live together. The two brothers actually had a tacit understanding about hiding their brother's identity. After this question was asked, everyone on the side also looked at Wang Ming eagerly. Only Wang Ling was lying on the bed with his head pillowed on his head. He wasn't in the mood to talk nonsense with this idiot, and he wasn't worried about Wang Ming's integration at all. That was because this guy was a natural at everything. Furthermore, when he lied, he never drafted a script. After all, these lies were all directly fabricated by the government. The worst part was that even the cultivation police couldn't find any clues when they checked his ID card. So in the face of Super Chen's question, Wang Ming answered almost without hesitation. I studied at Fragrant Pavilion in Yending Heavenly Palace before. Fragrant Pavilion in Yending Heavenly Palace? Super Chen was startled, because he had never heard of this school before. Dopey Guo patted his head. At the same time, he was a little surprised that there were actually things in this world that he, Master of Dopey, didn't know. Dopey Guo knew all the major high schools in Huaxiao Nation. If there was something he had missed, there was only one possibility. This cloud-top Heavenly Palace's Fragrant Pavilion and Water Pavilion was most likely a private school. If it was a private school, it was normal that they didn't know about it. Even though the Gold Core stage was now included in the national compulsory education. However, it was also possible to not go to these public schools. Private schools, and the sects of the light sects were another big choice. Moreover, if it was a private school, they would usually not recruit students through the internet. Instead, they would enter the school through private channels. Most importantly, the people who entered the school were either rich or respectable. Super Chen, Dopey Guo and Little Peanut stared impatiently at this classmate, Wang Xiaoer, in front of them with indescribable astonishment in their eyes. It turned out that this guy was a big shot. What cultivators liked to do the most was to exchange experiences. It wasn't easy to find a big shot from a private school, and the three of them worshipped Wang Ming to the core. Because the name on Wang Ming's ID card was Wang Xiaoer, Super Chen simply called him second brother. Second brother, I want to ask, what do you study in your private school? Wang Ming hummed in agreement, rubbed his chin, and thought for a moment before replying, Turtle Wave Heart Sutra. Turtle Wave Heart Sutra? Dopey Guo's eyes widened. Could it be that this is the legendary Kamehameha Cultivation Heart Sutra? This is a heaven-level technique. There are very few people in the world who can master it. It doesn't seem that difficult. Wang Ming spread his hands. Everyone in our school basically knows it. Also, let me tell you, The Turtle Wave Heart Sutra is actually already outdated. It's too powerful. As soon as it's released, the enemy will already be able to sense it from a long distance away. No matter how amazing the technique is, if it can't hit its target, what's the use? That's true. The three of them nodded non-committally. Wang Ming. So in the Turtle Wave Heart Sutra, based on the Turtle Wave Heart Sutra, our school's headmaster invented a kind of energy wave that can hit a cow from 1,000 li away. It's soundless and doesn't cause any fluctuations. The three of them were stunned by Wang Ming. There's this kind of operation? What kind of energy wave is this? What's it called? Wang Ming narrowed his eyes mysteriously and said 3 words. Non-showy wave. Non-showy wave? The three of them were stupefied. What kind of technique was this? It was actually called non-showy wave. Wang Ming continued. Like I said before, when you use the energy wave, there's no sound at all, not even the slightest fluctuation. Soundless and soundless, it's called non-showy wave. After saying that, Wang Ming slowly got up. Looking out the window, he slowly took off his coat to reveal a body full of sinewy muscles. He pointed to a red mark on his back. Your second brother suffered a lot to cultivate this technique. The headmaster threw him deep in the mountains and forests. When he was thirsty, he drank dew. When he was hungry, he ate grasshoppers and fought spirit beasts day in and day out to cultivate. This red mark was left behind when I was injured when I was cultivating. Wang Ling picked his ear and couldn't bear to listen anymore, because this red mark was basically a birthmark. Hearing Wang Ming's words, Super Chun and the others sucked in cold breaths of air and were extremely excited. Second brother is too awesome. Wang Ming put his clothes back on, and his gaze was unprecedentedly deep. Outside the window, like the protagonist in Kung Fu, who finally used the Buddha's palm on fire cloud evil god, he put his hands behind his back and looked calmly at the 3 people who were looking at him with reverence in their eyes. If you want to learn, I can teach you. Thus, after a short exchange of 10 minutes or so, Wang Ming had already completely become one with the 3 of them. Second brother, when can you explain the principle behind the non-showy wave to us? Second brother, what's the basic formula for the Turtle Wave Heart Sutra? Can you teach us? Also, are there any specific things to take note of when cultivating the Turtle Wave Heart Sutra? Things to take note of? There aren't any things to take note of. Wang Ming smiled with a very gentle expression. As long as you cultivate with me, I guarantee that you'll get super high marks in the college entrance exam. After saying that, he didn't forget to look at Wang Ling on the upper bunk. The brother upstairs, aren't you going to worship me as your master? Wang Ling. Chapter 212. The scale of the military training depended on both the cost of the exercise and the leaders who would be observing it. There were indeed a lot of leaders present for the 6 schools' joint military training exercise this time. Audiobook, who represented the general administration of 100 schools, was here, and Secretary Dakong of the Alliance of 10,000 Schools was also here. Apart from them, the headmasters of the 6 schools were all present to supervise the exercise. There were indeed a lot of students participating this time. While the military training exercise was very important, so was the safety of the students. At noon that day, Immortal Toya was called to a meeting again. As the chief instructor of the military training this time, he was equally responsible for the safety of the students. In the conference room, Secretary Dakong, Audiobook, Headmaster Jean of number 59 High School, Headmaster Chen of number 60 High School, Headmaster Qian of Building Materials High School, Headmaster Sun of God Vision High School, and Headmaster Hong of Prime Elevation High School were all present. Why isn't Headmaster Yu of Reliance High School here yet? Sitting on a bench in the middle of the conference room, Secretary Dakong cupped his chin and crossed his fingers. He frowned a little unhappily. I heard that Patriarch Reliance has just come out of seclusion and is now on his way here. Headmaster Hong of Prime Elevation High School, who was Reliance High School's partner in the alliance this time, spoke to smooth things over. I knew this kid would be late. The old secretary sighed. Back then this kid was a seclusion maniac. Back in the day, before Reliance High School had been established, He had founded the Reliance sect. He had found a mountain to build the sect, and after the sect had been repaired, he had gathered a few elders and vassals, and then he had gone into secluded meditation. By the time he came out, several hundred years had already passed, and who knows how many disciples the sect had. All the headmasters, Secretary Dakong and this senior patriarch Reliance are from the same school? How do you know him so well? Immortal Toya asked curiously on the side. How could I possibly be from the same school as him? Of course I know him, because of the establishment of Reliance High School back then. It was also because of the Reliance High School issue that I met him a lot before. The old secretary pursed his lips, swept his gaze over everyone and smiled. All schools in Huaxiao Nation have to go through our alliance of 10,000 schools for approval. Do you know this? Everyone nodded. Of course, the old secretary said. Of course, this approval will not be approved in a short period of time. We have to go through the procedures when we work in the government. After submitting the application, the approval process usually takes 15 working days. Headmaster Chen nodded. That's right. It does take that long. Moreover, the principal who applied for the establishment of the school had to be present to sign and leave his fingerprint and register the address of the school on the spot. Only then will it be approved by the school. This is where the problem lies. Secretary Dakong smiled wryly. Back then, Patriarch Reliance would choose to go into seclusion every time he submitted his application. He went into seclusion for 100 years. All the principals. Secretary Dakong. The most important thing is that after this guy came out of seclusion, he once again submitted the materials, and then couldn't help but go into seclusion again. Just like that, our alliance of 10,000 schools received a total of 6 applications, and Reliance High School only applied after 600 years. If we could save 600 years, it would be a 1,000-year-old school by now. All the principals. For a long time the conference room was silent. After another 5 or 6 minutes, Audio's phone finally rang. There's news from Patriarch Reliance. He sent a text. Secretary Dakong. Oh? What did he say? He said. Audio's expression didn't look good when he read the text. After pondering for a moment, he finally read out the contents of Patriarch Reliance's message. I'm going to faint. I just came out of seclusion. Why is everyone so quiet? Aren't you surfing the internet? How many GGs and beauties are here today? Is there my favorite Silian Jinren? I heard that Immortal Toya is also here today. I'm a junior who likes marinated purple rapeseed flowers. I'm still on my way. See you later, moi. After Audio finished reading, everyone in the room instantly sucked in a cold breath. Immortal Toya wiped at his sweat. Hearing that this Patriarch Reliance actually had a good impression of him, he was a little startled, and at the same time a little suspicious about the contents of the text. Director Zhua, is this really from Senior Patriarch Reliance? Zhua nodded in disbelief, and after confirming it over and over again he nodded. It's absolutely true. Everyone instantly felt that Patriarch Reliance's image was crumbling a little. The Grand Patriarch Reliance was actually a non-mainstream person. Could it be that because of his backer, the network signal wasn't very good, and the village's network had only just been connected? Don't doubt it. This tone is undoubtedly Patriarch Reliance. The corner of Secretary Dakong's mouth twitched. Although Patriarch Reliance is a seclusion maniac, he has always chosen to do it in his hometown, Reliance Mountain Village. Indeed, the network signal in the village isn't very good. Everyone. Secretary Dakong. But unfortunately, Patriarch Reliance always thinks he's very fashionable. Everyone. Another 10 minutes passed and Patriarch Reliance, Headmaster Yu of Reliance High School, still hadn't shown up. Audio looked at the text on his phone and saw that Patriarch Reliance had sent a second message. Patriarch Reliance has been in seclusion for a long time and doesn't know that odd-even numbers are now restricted to travel. It seems that he was detained on his flying sword on the road and is still being dealt with at the police station. Everyone. The old secretary was already a little impatient and simply presided over the meeting. He turned his gaze to Headmaster Hong on the side. Forget about him, let's start our meeting first. Little Hong, your Prime Elevation High School and Reliance High School are in an alliance this time, so you'll be responsible for passing on the content of the meeting later. Yes, Secretary. Headmaster Hong nodded. The meeting officially began. The old secretary looked at the little notebook he had prepared. He had set up a lot of questions for discussion regarding the military training exercise this time. After all, the 6 schools would be conducting the survival drill as a pilot, and there were actually still a lot of loopholes. What they needed to do now was to find and fill in the gaps in time during the discussion. General E attaches great importance to this drill. 3 months ago, he specially ordered a large number of magic treasures for the students to use on this map. This will be a great test of the students' adaptability and flexibility in using magic treasures. Chapter 213. Naturally, the old secretary's question wasn't superfluous. If the magic treasures weren't easy to use, progress would indeed be greatly delayed. The survival drill this time would last from start to finish, with over 10,000 people competing for the right to survive on the map. The expert group predicted that it would take 3 days. This was the best time to train the students' adaptability and unity, and at the same time to ensure that it was exciting. But if the unstable factor of the magic treasures affected the time limit, the effect would be very poor. How about we drop a limited number of instruction manuals near the map? Immortal Toya immediately replied. Secretary Dakong nodded. I've already thought of that. Furthermore, we can make the instruction manuals into something like an electronic illustrated handbook, which will automatically explain them as long as they scan the magic treasures. This will also make it easier for the students to understand the characteristics of the magic treasures. What do you think? Number 59 High School's headmaster Jean shook his head. I have no objections. No objections. The other headmasters also expressed their views. Very well, then it's settled for now. The old secretary looked at his notebook. There's another problem, which is the number of people participating in the survival drill. Although there are over 10,000 of us participating this time, the combined number of people from number 59 High School and number 60 High School is less than 800. This issue had to do with the fairness of the military exercise, and was in fact quite serious. God Vision High School's headmaster Sun frowned. Why are there so few people? Headmaster Chen sighed pitifully. Although we're now Key City High School candidates, of course we can't compare with the real Key City High Schools. There's a limit to the number of students we can recruit every year. 400 new students in grade 1 is already the limit. Headmaster Chen pointed out the problem with one sentence. If it was a Key City High School, they could recruit over 1,000 people every year. The other headmasters all had helpless expressions on their faces. They had actually overlooked this problem. Although it was good to see the 2 Key City High Schools team up against the 4 Key High Schools in the military training exercise this time. If the number of participants wasn't fair, this competition was actually meaningless. So now we can only think of other ways to balance them. The old secretary said. This time, we'll use an array to transport the students to the sky above the map, and then drop them together. Let me make a suggestion. We can set up an array to drop the students from number 59 High School and number 60 High School in an area with a high concentration of magic treasures. Headmasters, what do you think? I have no objections. Prime Elevation High School's headmaster Hong added, this is indeed unfair. I think we can even prepare a magic treasure illustrated handbook for the children of number 60 High School and number 59 High School. How about that? The other principals continued to shake their heads. Yes, that's possible. We have no objections. It was just 800 people. In the eyes of these principals, it was complete nonsense to rely on these 800 people to fight against over 9,000 people from the other 4 schools. When Immortal Toya heard this, the corners of his mouth couldn't help twitching slightly. Although number 59 High School and number 60 High School only had 800 people in total, there was still lingering this bug. Immortal Toya felt that he could already see the end of the story. When will the teleportation begin? Headmaster Chen asked when the discussion was almost done. The old secretary looked at the time and replied, "It starts at 6 tonight." "So fast. Don't we still have training?" Only sudden incidents can test the adaptability of this group of children. As for the traditional military training, these can be carried out after the drill, the old secretary said. After saying this, he turned his gaze to Audiobook. "Is the teleportation array ready?" Audiobook nodded seriously. "Yes, it's ready." Before the children arrived at the military base, the teleportation array had already been secretly set up outside the dormitory building. Once it's activated, all the students in the dormitory building will be instantly teleported to the map for the drill. Hearing this, the principals were a little astonished. They had originally thought that the students would be gathered together first before entering the array together for the teleportation. They completely hadn't expected this to happen. This also meant that the students would be directly teleported to the map while completely unprepared. Speaking up to this point, Audiobook sighed slightly. "Now, we just need Reliance High School's headmaster Yu's signature. As long as he signs it, we can activate the array on time tonight. Call him right away. Tell him that it's my order. I want him here in 10 minutes. Otherwise, Reliance High School will directly lose its right to participate in the drill. Also, little Joisy, tell him that if he doesn't get here in 10 minutes, his Reliance High School will probably be demoted next year," the old secretary said. "Audiobook, isn't that too harsh?" "It's not harsh at all." Secretary Dakong shook his head painfully and let out a sigh that no one understood his good intentions. "Is he at the police station now? I'm just afraid that while he's drinking tea, he'll think about going into seclusion." Everyone. The sky in the western suburbs of Songhai City was dotted with stars at night. That night, all the students were called into the dormitory building to fill out the so-called camp entry handbook. Wang Ling knew that the headmasters of the 6 schools had deliberately arranged this to gather all the students in the dormitory building. Wang Ling had long since discovered the magic array that had been set up around the dormitory building. This survival drill was definitely going to be a surprise attack. It could be said that Wang Ling had completely seen through the plans of the headmasters of the 6 schools. But the only thing that worried Wang Ling a little was the exotic magic treasures that General Yi had developed. Who knew what kind of random things they would pick up on the map this time? Wang Ling filled out the handbook and sat cross-legged on his bed deep in thought. At that moment, there was movement outside the door. Wang Ming had returned with his 3 new underlings. "Brother Heir, please sit." As soon as he entered, Super Chen pulled out a chair for Wang Ming to sit in like a lackey, then looked at Dopey Gua and Little Peanut. "You two, go pour a glass of water for Brother Heir." He then rolled up his sleeves, intending to start massaging Wang Ming's shoulders. As soon as he put his hand on Wang Ming's shoulder, Wang Ming straightaway shivered. "What are you doing?" Wang Ming turned his head to look at Super Chen. Super Chen answered truthfully, "Brother Heir had a hard time teaching us how to cultivate the non-showy wave just now. My family is a sports family, and I learned acupoint massage from my dad before, so I wanted to massage Brother Heir's shoulders. It's fine, I'm not tired." Wang Ming actually felt a little guilty when he said this. He was well aware of the consequences of letting a foundation establishment cultivator massage his shoulders with his muggle body. Chapter 214. It was still June 14th, and it was already 5 o'clock in the evening. From arriving at the military training base, to applying for military supplies, to filling in the camp handbook, today's schedule didn't look very tight, and many students even felt that the military training this time wasn't as harsh as they had imagined. They just needed to strive to get a good ranking for their school in the survival drill. In the dormitory building, the students of number 59 high school and number 60 high school had been arranged in one area. Some were discussing tactics, while others were chatting idly. The overall atmosphere looked very relaxed. At around 5:30, Old Antique came to check on the dormitory. He counted the number of people in the dormitory and confirmed that there were no students outside. Furthermore, Old Antique gave each of them something, which was an electronic illustrated handbook the size of a palm. But he didn't explain what this handbook was for, and then left with the spicy strip in his mouth. Superchin studied it for a long while, but couldn't figure it out. Second brother, do you know what this is? Superchin asked. Resting his head on his pillow, Wang Ming sat on one side of the wall in a tilted chair. Crossing his long, straight legs on the desk, he raised his eyes lazily and quickly replied, "Isn't this an electronic illustrated handbook? General E mass-produced so many magic treasures this time. There's bound to be some you don't know how to use. With this handbook, it should be a lot more convenient for us when we enter the map." Speaking up to this point, Wang Ming smiled slightly. Also, only our number 60 high school and number 59 high school should have this thing. The other 4 schools didn't get it. Our 2 schools' allied forces only have 800 people in total, while the other 4 schools have more than 9,000 people in total. There's a disparity in numbers at all. This is probably a counterbalance measure that the headmasters of the 6 schools came up with after discussing it together. In the dormitory, several people raised their heads, and their eyes instantly lit up. There was this kind of operation? But can we really bring this thing in? I heard that once we enter the array, the power of the array will block the storage space on our bodies by default, and we won't be allowed to bring magic treasures into the map, Little Peanut asked. Wang Ming narrowed his eyes and smiled. It's fine, this array has been set up, and this electronic illustrated handbook isn't within its range. At that moment, even Dopigwa couldn't help but admire this second brother of Wang Ming's powerful eyes and ears. Even he, a gossip expert, didn't know about this, but this second brother actually knew. Wang Ling. Nonsense, it was Wang Ming who had drawn the array design. It would be strange if this guy didn't know. Time flew, and when it was nearly 5:55 in the evening, the 2 brothers of the Wang family opened their eyes at the same time. Both Wang Ling and Wang Ming could sense that the magic array outside the dormitory was already in the activation stage. Wang Ling secretly opened his heavenly eye to take a look, and realized that this magic array really wasn't just big. It encompassed almost all the dormitory buildings in the military training base. Furthermore, the structure of the array was complex and ever-changing. Even a top array master wouldn't be able to set it up in less than half a year. In fact, Wang Ming had started to design this blueprint as early as 2 years ago. Although he didn't have spirit energy, he had played a key role in the high-level calculations and all kinds of complex formulas needed to set up an array. With a simple sweep of his heavenly eye, Wang Ling could already see hundreds of thousands of complicated formulas on the array's surface. If it wasn't for this most powerful brain, a normal person really wouldn't be able to take it all in. This array was connected to a small world, created by an almighty cultivator. Just from the structure of the array, Wang Ling knew that the flow of time in this small world was different from that in the outside world. Wang Ming got up and stood at the window as he looked at the faint light outside. It looked a little like the light of an incandescent lamp, but was in fact the light emitted by an array when it was in operation. He calculated in his heart that the array would be fully activated in a little over 3 minutes. Taking a deep breath, Wang Ming checked the people in the dormitory and found that Hero Guo was unexpectedly missing. He pointed at Dopigwa's bed. "Where is he?" "Super Chen. Dopey said he had a stomachache, so he went to the bathroom." Wang Ling. Wang Ming. At the same time, on the roof of the dormitory building, a dark space tunnel opened. A pair of hands stretched out from the tunnel to grab at a corner, and then a figure struggled free. "I finally made it." With the help of Jiang Liyue's body, the old devil appeared. Inside the stone ghost mask, Jiang Liyue sensed the huge array outside the dormitory building, and was a little surprised. This array is really a big deal. Unless an almighty took action, there's no way they could have set it up. Furthermore, I can vaguely sense that there are experts nearby. This time, the headmasters of the 6 schools, and that head of the alliance of 10,000 schools have all gathered together. "Senior, are you really confident?" My venerable self heard that one of the headmasters of the 6 schools is Patriarch Reliance? Given my current state, apart from Patriarch Reliance, and that old secretary, I don't care about anyone else. The old devil snorted. The last two failures were because my venerable self had overlooked that junior called Killer Taoist. As long as he doesn't come to stir things up this time, everything else is fine. That person seems to have an unusual relationship with the cultivation forum. Inside the stone ghost mask, Jiang Luiyue smiled bitterly. The last few times this person appeared, it was because we got involved with that great death-courting senior from the cultivation forum. Senior shouldn't have so many misgivings today. That's right. The old devil nodded, and spirit light flashed in his hand as a green flag appeared. An array guiding flag? Jiang Luiyue was astonished. This array guiding flag was a very practical magic treasure that could instantly change the location of an array that had been set up beforehand. But she had also heard that array guiding flags had been used by criminals back then to trigger a huge catastrophe. Thus, array guiding flags had already disappeared from the market 1,000 years ago. The most frightening thing was that they couldn't even be bought on the black market or at auction houses. It could only be said that the old devil was in the end an old devil. There weren't many people nowadays who could produce so many ancient treasures. Back in my venerable self's small world, I've already set up the magic array that connects to the gate between worlds. Holding the array guiding flag, the old devil sneered. Once my venerable self and this group of students sneak into the small world where they're conducting their drill, we'll use the array guiding flag to open the gate between worlds in that small world, and we'll be able to pull the wool over everyone's eyes and ears without making a sound. Then my venerable self can take advantage of this opportunity to suck dry the vitality of these tens of thousands of students and reappear in the world. Speaking up to this point, the old devil smiled lightly. Do you know why my venerable self was ranked as the #1 devil in history back then? Jiang Luiyue. Why? That's because no one else was as vicious as my venerable self. The old devil said, my venerable self was able to strike fear into the hearts of the world because of my peers. Chapter 215. The old devil was actually telling the truth. Anyone who could stand out in any industry relied on their peers to set them off. This actually made sense. Take a look at all the villains in history. After they died, they compromised and made a secret deal with the protagonist, but in the end they were set up and killed instead. They pretended to take people in as disciples, and wanted to devour their souls and flesh after fattening up, but in the end failed and self-destructed. There were also those who held high the flag before a battle, thinking that they would definitely win, but in the end were beaten up so badly that even their own mothers wouldn't recognize them. Furthermore, the old devil felt that all villains had one thing in common. They talked a lot. There were only a few minutes left before the array was activated. In the toilet of the military training dormitory, Master of Dopey was still clutching his stomach and struggling bitterly. He didn't know what on earth he had eaten today, but his stomach had inexplicably started to hurt. He squatted on the toilet bowl with his hands on the handles. He looked like he was about to collapse. What on earth had he eaten? Dopey Guo felt like his brain had already lost the ability to think. Oh, that was right. Just as Dopey Guo was about to break down, he remembered something. It wasn't that he had eaten something bad today. He remembered that when he had passed by the corridor yesterday, he had eaten a new dish that Mother Wan had made. It was a rice dish with smoothies made from rice. Mother Wan had even given it a very nice name, Fan Bing Bing. At that time, Mother Wan had been experimenting in the corridor. The problem was that he had only taken one bite. Furthermore, he hadn't felt any discomfort at that time. Clutching his stomach, Dopey Guo wanted to cry but had no tears. At that moment, he was astonished to discover that Mother Wan's dark cuisine had been upgraded, and now it actually had a strong after effect, which was too scary. Time ticked by. Dopey Guo looked at the time weakly, and realized that it was almost 6 o'clock. He had already been squatting in the toilet for more than 10 minutes. At that moment, he saw the tiles under his feet actually start to tremble slightly. An earthquake? Dopey Guo was very puzzled, because if it was an earthquake, it actually wouldn't have felt this strong. But at that moment, he saw a white light penetrate the crack under the squatting cubicle next door. Nah nanny! Dopey Guo was so scared that he peed his pants. In the next moment, he felt his body gradually turn into nothingness. Following that, the mist in front of him changed, and there were endless tunnels. Dopigwa felt himself being pulled into a new map by a strange force. Did he transmigrate? When Dopigwa came back to his senses, he felt a gust of wind blowing between his legs. He was surprised to find that he was directly teleported while he was squatting, and he was spiraling into the sky naked. In the conference room of the military training base in the western suburbs of Shanghai City, the old secretary sat on a long bench and looked at the big screen in front of him. There was a radar on the bottom right of the screen, and there were countless red dots on it. The teleportation has been activated, right? Have you confirmed the number? Yes, it has been confirmed. Standing next to the old secretary, Ajwa gave a report. Before the teleportation officially began, we already had the teachers in charge of each school carefully confirm that all the students were in the dormitory building filling out the camp handbook. Even if they weren't in their dormitories, they went to the toilet in the dormitory building. Nothing was missed. The old secretary nodded. Yes, that's good. Like the toilet? Hearing this, the mouths of the headmasters in the conference room couldn't help twitching. They could already imagine the surprise of some students who were taking a dump, or taking a dump suddenly being teleported away. In this situation, whether it was *T or P, they would be so scared that they would hold it back, right? The old secretary smiled. It happened so suddenly, that's what's really happening. We need to see the students' true reactions, don't we? Old secretary is right. Ajwa broke out in a sweat. Right now they're going up. After the array teleports them to the map, it will automatically take them up to a height of 5,000 meters, and then finally put them down together, so that they can freely choose where they want to land. Is there a problem with safety? Rest assured, old secretary. General E has already personally set up the small world to slow down when it's 100 meters from the ground. On the side, Ajwa reported the situation. Furthermore, the instructors in charge of the survival drill this time have already entered the map. Their radar is blue, and Senior Immortal Toya is the overall commander to ensure the students' safety. The magic treasures inside are all specially made to cater to the small world. As long as the small world determines that they hit a vital spot and smoke rises from their body, they will be eliminated. The rules and elimination mechanism for the survival drill this time were in fact very simple to understand, and even easier than at the Spirit Sword Exchange meet. As the director of the general administration of 100 schools in Shanghai City, it could be said that Ajwa had put a lot of heart and soul into planning this matter. Ever since his superiors had given him the task, he had spared no effort in drawing up the process this time, and had prepared plans in advance for all kinds of possible scenarios. Because he knew Sherfu was a person who never liked trouble, and liked to keep a low profile. But no matter how meticulously prepared a plan was, it was inevitable that there would be a loophole. Standing next to the old secretary, Ajwa had a troubled expression on his face. Secretary Dakong, I just received intelligence that the fluctuations from the gate between worlds are coming again, and the coordinates are very close to us. The gate between worlds? The old secretary frowned, feeling that this was a little too much of a coincidence. With a solemn expression, he lowered his head and replied, Back then, General E and I joined hands to seal the gate between worlds. Under normal circumstances, it would have been impossible for the seal to be undone in such a short time. I've always felt that someone was playing tricks behind the scenes. The coordinates of the fluctuations from the gate between worlds are so close to us, which is indeed not good for us. If it's to harm the children, then it's bad. Old secretary, should we ask for reinforcements? Reinforcements can be used as a contingency plan. Let's see how things go first. The old secretary waved his hand and frowned. No matter what, the headmasters of the 6 schools and I are here. We have to be responsible for the students' safety. Ajwa was extremely astonished. He had never expected the old secretary to actually use reinforcements as a contingency plan. Is the gate between worlds really so terrifying? Back then, when the demon army retreated, the 10 of us joined hands to close the gate. After some calculations, the combined strength of the 10 of us was 1 billion jin. and we were only barely able to push the gate shut. But each of us held back and didn't use all our strength, because we didn't expect the gate to be so heavy. The old secretary seemed to have recalled many things. He stood up and sighed. If the gate between worlds appears again, I'll shut it even if I have to risk my life. If the demon army rises up again at this time, it won't be good. Chapter 216. This world of escape was huge, and it stretched as far as the eye could see. This was a small world which General E had specially prepared, and it was very rich in spirit chi. As soon as everyone entered the small world, they slowly rose up along with the power of the array, and finally stopped about 5,000 meters above the ground. Looking with his heavenly eye, Wang Ling noticed the boundary pillar at the center of the small world. At the very top of the boundary pillar was a flat top, and there were a lot of rugged mountain paths around it. Wang Ling realized that these paths had been designed to allow people to reach the top of the mountain. If they had a long-range magic treasure, the top of the boundary pillar would be a very advantageous ambush position. Outside the boundary pillar was an urban area with all kinds of high-rise buildings and imitation landmarks. In addition, Wang Ling also noticed that beyond the horizon of the small world, at the farthest point that his heavenly eye could reach, there was a thick black fog entrenched beyond the horizon. This thick fog was not Yaoqi. It was also a form of elimination in the competition system. After everyone landed on the ground, the thick black fog would begin to slowly shrink. If there was anyone who was obsessed with fighting, or had forgotten about collecting magic treasures, there was a high chance that they would be swallowed up by the black fog, and the pocket world would automatically judge them as eliminated. Therefore, this military training exercise not only tested the students' adaptability, but it also taught the students how to control themselves. The foundation building stage was the entry stage of cultivation, and for cultivators who had just entered, the biggest taboo was greed. Tens of thousands of people were scattered in the vast sky, scattered in various positions. Wang Ling looked around casually and saw many of his schoolmates and the Alliance Army from number 59 high school. Wang Ling looked around, but didn't see any sign of his dumbass brother. Even Super Chun and the others had been teleported to who knew where. It didn't matter. Wang Ling rubbed his brow. In any case, he just needed to lay low in this competition like Teacher Pan had said. Wang Ling didn't want to fight anyone, because he knew that the group in the surveillance room outside could detect every student's movements through radar. Wang Ling didn't want to be too obvious. After a long while, Wang Ling sensed the fluctuations of the array again, and all the people who had been frozen in the sky started to fall. In the end, Wang Ling landed steadily on a barren desert. This was the least populated place, and he could avoid most of the students participating in the competition. Of course, Wang Ling wasn't the only one who had thought of this. There were more than 100 people who had chosen to land in the desert outside the city. The competition in the center of the city was the fiercest. It was very likely that as soon as they landed, they would start fighting over the magic treasures. The people who chose to live in the desert were all afraid of being turned into boxes the moment they landed. According to the rules of the competition, after being judged to be eliminated by the small world, the surviving person could pick up all the magic treasures on the eliminated person's body. Let's see what's around us first, Wang Ling sighed in his heart. Although more than 100 people had landed in the desert, he had yet to find any trace of them. The environment of the desert was quite harsh. The temperature was more than 30 degrees Celsius higher than the center of the city, and there was an endless sandstorm. There wasn't even a single weed. It was dead silent. If he couldn't find any magic weapons like flying swords that he could control here, and the black fog outside the horizon just happened to spread here, from here to the center of the city, the people in the desert would undoubtedly die. Just as he was about to set out to search the area, the sand in front of him suddenly caved in, and a hole the size of a person appeared. Then, accompanied by a human-sized spirit light, Wang Ming actually climbed out of the hole. An Earth Escape talisman? Wang Ming tugged at his windproof glasses, which hurt a little. As expected, I'm still not very used to using spirit talismans. This Earth Escape talisman isn't very suitable in the sand. If I'm not careful, I might be buried before I can climb out. Wang Ling stared at the sand hole and pondered deeply. Didn't this guy have no spirit energy? How could he use a spirit talisman? I brought my team here this time, and I'm the only one who can't use spirit energy. But generally gave me this. Saying this, Wang Ming took out a golden talisman from his pants and smiled evilly. General E personally made this talisman, and it's connected to the source of his spirit energy. As long as I carry this golden talisman on me, I can also use magic treasures. But the golden talisman also has a time limit, which is only for a few days. Your brother, I, have finally turned the tables today, Wang Ling. Saying this, Wang Ming pulled open his sleeve to reveal his wristwatch. This was a wristwatch that only staff members had. In order to avoid the possibility of students communicating with each other, the wristwatch had already been filtered out before they had been teleported in through the array. I blocked your signal just now, so you don't have to worry about your movements being monitored by the people outside. Also look, Wang Ming used the wristwatch to make a simple setting, and a round disc appeared in the air. This was actually a radar. Ling, there seems to be a lot of people nearby. Do you want to ambush them and collect their parcels? Saying this, Wang Ming patted Wang Ling on the shoulder and smiled brightly, revealing his white teeth. Don't worry, Big Brother will protect you. Wang Ling was startled. You're just a maintenance staff member. Why are you playing around? The two brothers walked forward, crossed a sand dune, and found a few scattered cacti in the desert up ahead. The desert was so hot that there wasn't even a single weed in the area Wang Ling had been in before. For a few cacti to appear here could already be considered a unique sight in the desert. The two of them hid behind the extremely unscientifically large cacti for about 30 minutes, but didn't find a single trace of anyone. Although they were very far away, Wang Ling could already hear the fierce exchange of gunfire in the center of the city, which was the sound of various magic weapons colliding. In less than half an hour since they had entered the small world, around several hundred people had already been eliminated. The number of people remaining was clearly written in the air above the plateau of the boundary pillar, 9,723, and it was still decreasing. But there wasn't the slightest movement in this desert. If it wasn't for the fact that he could still sense these people's auras, and if it wasn't for the fact that Wang Ming could still see the marks on the radar, he would never have thought that there would actually be over 100 people here. The most important thing was that this was a desert, the worst place in the entire small world. After another hour or so, Wang Ling raised his head and saw that the desert was still howling with wind and sand. Above his head were scattered clouds, and there wasn't even an ant as far as the eye could see. Chapter 217. Ever since he was a child, Wang Ming had never experienced what it felt like to operate a magic treasure with his own hands. For him, this was actually a rare opportunity. Unfortunately, he had already run into a wall before he could launch his counterattack. This bunch of people were really too good at hiding. For a whole hour and a half, there wasn't even the slightest bit of movement. Even the red dot on the radar hadn't moved at all. So it turned out that they were all planning to stay put and wait for the express delivery to be snatched. Furthermore, there wasn't a single magic treasure on the ground as far as the eye could see. This location was too bad. It was simply terrifyingly poor. Time flowed differently in the small world. Although the military training exercise this time was going to last 3 days, that was in accordance with the flow of time in the outside world. If they really had to find a place to hide until the poisonous fog continued to shrink, they would at least be able to make it into the top 100. They had to think of a way to do something. This was too boring. Wang Ling knew that as a mad scientist, his cousin had never been someone who could stay idle. Just as this dumbass elder brother was sighing in his heart about how boring it was, there was suddenly a flash of spirit light in the distance, and a square box slowly descended. An airdrop? Maybe there's something good inside, Wang Ming said. According to the law of checks and balances in this exercise, this desert should be the place with the least magic treasures. So if an airdrop lands, the things inside will definitely be very valuable. Talismans, elixirs, maybe even snacks. Wang Ling. Wait, snacks. Wang Ming cupped his chin as he looked at Wang Ling and smiled. I was the one who came up with the idea of snacks. When I made the airdrop, I wanted to put a gift bag of snacks inside, which will help ease the loneliness of waiting. Oh, that's right. There are crispy noodle snacks in the gift bag. Want to take a look? For some reason, Wang Ling, who had been indifferent to this survival contest from the very beginning, suddenly felt a little excited. It had to be said that Wang Ming's move was very brilliant. Since he had a goal, Wang Ming realized that Wang Ling was a lot more serious than his previous indifferent attitude. Previously, he had clearly been too lazy to even open his heavenly eye, but now he kept it open the entire time as he worked hard to advance in the direction of the airdrop. Wang Ming knew that it actually wasn't easy to see Wang Ling maintain his heavenly eye for a long time. Wang Ling's heavenly eye was a little special. When he activated it, his pupils would glow with a different kind of splendor, which would gradually turn golden, and in the end, look like 3 golden flowers that were slightly spread apart. It was as if he had wearing contact lenses. He was so handsome that he had no friends. Wang Ming remembered seeing the heavenly eye in its complete form when he and Wang Ling had played hide-and-seek as kids. Who would have thought that after so many years, it would feel like a lifetime had passed since he saw it again? Wang Ming was well aware that there was a trace of envy, but even more nostalgia. In his heart, Wang Ling knew very well that it a little bit of envy, but even more nostalgia. Wang Ming often thought that if he had developed the Dao Talisman seal back then earlier, he might have been a lot more cheerful than he was now. At the very least, he wouldn't have been so antisocial. The airdrop's location is just ahead. Wang Ming pointed in a certain direction. Previously, he hadn't carefully probed this desert with his spiritual senses. Actually, it wasn't like there was nothing wrong with it. There was still a designated landmark. Wang Ling didn't choose to directly teleport, but approached it bit by bit, because he could already smell a conspiracy from afar. Wang Ling didn't choose to directly teleport, but instead approached it bit by bit. Even from a distance, he could already smell a conspiracy. There was definitely someone lying in ambush at the location of the airdrop. If he suddenly teleported over, this kind of bug-like skill would appear here. It wouldn't be good if he was reported as a cheat. As far as the eye could see, the ruins were surrounded by rubble. The broken walls were very high, and there was a huge stone array and several ancient stone palaces inside. Wang Ming chose to bypass the front of the ruins and go in from the side. The front was directly under the sun, and it was really too conspicuous to walk under it. There was a huge stone wall on the side, and entering from the shadows was a good choice. But they hadn't gone far when Wang Ming immediately stopped, when he noticed a red dot on the radar behind the stone wall up ahead. The brother in front, come out. I can already see you. Wang Ling really couldn't help complaining in his heart. This radar was really too heaven-defying. Actually, the person behind the stone wall had hidden himself pretty well. Wang Ling felt that if anyone else had passed by, they might not have realized that there was someone hiding behind it. A moment later, Super Chen walked out from behind the stone wall with his hands raised. Second brother is really amazing. You could even find me when I was hiding so well. So it's you. Wang Ming stared at the cushion in Super Chen's hands with an astonished expression. Is this a prayer mat? And it's an 8th grade prayer mat. Super Chen smiled. I found it while I was looking for you. I sensed second brother's aura from afar. You're pretty lucky to have picked up an 8th grade prayer mat so quickly. Wang Ming had an astonished expression on his face, because this was probably the best perception type magic treasure in the survival contest this time. The students here were all at the foundation establishment stage, so their spiritual senses had a limited range. But as long as they sat on this praying mat and used their senses, their range would increase by 50 times. With this 8th grade prayer mat, it was like having a walking radar. Have you seen anyone else? Wang Ming asked. I came from the outskirts and saw a few people on my way here. Most of them are now moving in groups. I haven't seen Peanut and Dopey yet. I don't know where they've run off to, Super Chen answered honestly. By the way, do you and second brother lack anything? I picked up a lot of things on my way here. As he spoke, Super Chun took out a small golden brocade pouch, which startled Wang Ming again. An 8th grade storage bag? Where did you find it? This was the storage magic treasure with the largest storage space in the entire survival contest. If you wanted to survive long enough in this contest, it was very important to find a magic treasure with a large storage space. The larger the storage space, the more resources you could store on the map. Staring at this 8th grade storage bag, Wang Ming couldn't help sucking in a cold breath. This guy's luck was too good. He was simply full of luck. Didn't I pick up something on the way here? Super Chin scratched his head and said a little embarrassedly. On my way here, I noticed 2 groups of people exchanging fire. The Shao Clan disciples from God Vision High School seemed to have slipped and blew up their teammates. Then, a God Vision High School boy was being chased by a group of girls with knives. Wang Ming frowned. Internal strife? I don't think so. It should be a relationship dispute. Super Chin thought for a while, and then said in alarm, I think I heard someone call that guy Brother Chung. Wang Ling. Chapter 218. On the plateau at the top of the boundary pillar, the old devil reappeared in Jiang Liuyue's body. Looking at the vast small world, he was a little excited. I've finally made it in. I'm one step closer to the success of my master plan. Lord Devil Emperor, there are people monitoring the survival contest outside this time. And it seems that more than 100 people have entered the small world to protect the students. Is this really okay? Jiang Luyue raised her doubts in the stone ghost mask. Before entering this small world, I wrapped the purple gold gourds mist around my body, so this small world couldn't sense me at all. Given the strength of that bunch of juniors, they can't sense my aura at all. The old devil sneered. Furthermore, my venerable self believes that my decision this time is simply a blessing from the heavens. Not only can this small world not sense my existence, I can also wantonly absorb the spirit energy here. Using the array guiding flag to transfer the array to open the gate between worlds, and then activating the ancient array to absorb vitality chi to reconstruct the skeleton and flesh body. All of this consumed a huge amount of spirit energy. My venerable self had been worried that I wouldn't be able to keep up with the spirit energy, but now there's no need to worry at all. When my venerable self recovers my body, I'll come find you. On the boundary pillar, the old devil took a deep breath, and a spirit light rose from his hand. Through the stone ghost mask, Jiang Luyue saw a jade pendant in the shape of a crescent moon appear in the old devil's palm. Lord Devil Emperor, this is... My venerable self's first love gave me this pendant. The old devil stared at the pendant, his eyes unexpectedly soft as water. Unfortunately, she died 1,000 years ago. My venerable self sealed her body in ice. Hearing this, Jiang Luyue was a little astonished. She had never thought that this old devil would actually be a Casanova. My venerable self had been looking for a way to resurrect her all this time. Just as I found a reliable plan, I was targeted by that Yi Jianchuan guy, and we fought fiercely for several days. This directly drained my spirit energy, and it took me a very long time to recover my spirit energy. My resurrection has been delayed ever since. The old devil gripped the crescent moon pendant in his hand. To completely resurrect her, my venerable self needs to operate the wheel of time and find her reincarnation. Speaking up to this point, the old devil looked at the stone ghost mask. When the time comes, I might need your help. After a moment of silence, Jiang Luyue replied, If Lord Devil Emperor has a request, this junior will definitely fulfill it. That's good. The old devil nodded and looked at the number of people in the sky. There were now less than 9,300 left. He needed to set up the vitality chi absorption array as soon as possible. Otherwise, the number of people would only decrease. But before that, a good cover was equally important. Looking at the dwindling number of people, the old devil took a deep breath. Then, let's open the gate between worlds first. We don't have much time left. He looked around and found a large desert in the northwest. The ruins there seemed to be not bad. It's hidden enough. Let's open the gate between worlds there. As he spoke, his right hand blossomed with spiritual light. In an instant, the array guiding flag quickly turned into an invisible light and flew toward the ruins. Super Chun was dividing up the loot in the shadow of a stone wall on the side of the ruins. The 8th grade storage bag could really hold too many things, and Super Chun had straightaway fattened up. There were a lot of things inside. In addition to the 8th grade rush cushion, which Super Chun was carrying, there was also a 4th grade one, as well as some spirit talismans and magic treasures of decent quality. 5 Earth Escape talismans, 3 Aura Concealing talismans, 3 Armor-Piercing talismans, 1 first-class spirit sword, 1 first-class spirit boot, 1 8th grade immortal sword, and a number of chi and blood pills. These things actually weren't of much use to Wang Ling. Although Jinka hadn't been brought here, even if he wasn't completely serious, the power of his casual finger chi sword, which was restricted by the talisman seal, was already close to that of a first-class holy weapon. Of course, there were also some magic treasures in the 8th grade storage bag that even Wang Ling didn't understand. General E had used his own imagination to create these magic treasures, just like at the Spirit Sword Exchange meet the last time. The difference was that the magic treasures at the Spirit Sword Exchange meet the last time were just balls of data and virtual simulations. But the magic treasures now were all F***King real. For example, there was a small bumpy wooden board inside. Wang Ling couldn't figure out what it was for, or what it meant at all. This is a godly weapon. Holding this wooden board, Wang Ming couldn't help sighing. I didn't expect you to find this thing. At that time, Super Chun had been in a hurry to snatch it, and hadn't had time to check its origin with the electronic illustrated handbook. What is this? Wang Ming answered without hesitation, a washboard. Wang Ling and Super Chun. In order not to arouse Super Chun's suspicions, Wang Ling bluntly chose a first-class spirit sword to carry with him, as well as an extra 2nd grade storage bag. In fact, Wang Ling wasn't afraid even if he didn't have a storage bag, because he could store things in his heavenly eyes field of vision. Wang Ming was even less courteous, and basically emptied the bag of consumables. He had picked up a few broken things on the way here, and had used up the only Earth Escape talisman he had while looking for Wang Ling. He hadn't used the golden talisman General E had given him yet. Boom! The 3 of them packed up their belongings, and were about to set off, when there was a rumble inside the ruins. It's the airdrop box, there's a firefight. Wang Ming quietly checked the radar, and discovered that there were many red dots in the ruins, and there were 6 people in total. There were at least 2 to 3 groups of people. Looking over quietly, the 3 of them saw 5 teenagers next to the airdrop box, each of them holding a spirit sword. Wherever the tip of the sword pointed, the gravel and sand on the ground moved along with it, condensing into a wall. Earth and Wood Spirit Spell? These 5 people are from Reliance High School. Hiding behind a stone wall, Super Chun secretly observed in that direction. This was actually a battle of unequal numbers. Wang Ming sighed in his heart at this scene. 5 against 1. This person was probably done for. But very quickly, they realized that something wasn't right, because these 5 people were actually all on the defensive. On the other side, the purple-clothed young man from God Vision High School raised the corners of his mouth slightly in the face of the combined power of 5 people's Earth and Wood Spirit spell, and he sneered slightly. Reliance High School, it's over. With a hum, flames instantly surged out of his arm, and he smashed into the wall with a bang. Spirit light soared into the sky, and the intense spiritual pressure made Super Chun's scalp go numb. This young man from God Vision High School was really too strong. Although they were both in year 1, Super Chun felt that his strength wasn't equal to the other parties at all. Almost in an instant, the flames that rushed out of the young man's palm were like an all-conquering cannon that directly blasted the wall into powder. The 5 Reliance High School disciples were completely unable to resist the powerful disparity in strength. The stone wall was blasted open, and the 5 people threw themselves in all directions, smoke rising from their bodies at the same time. One of the eliminated disciples thumped the ground and glared angrily at the young man in front of him. Who are you? You've already been eliminated from the small world. and are considered dead. Logically speaking, you shouldn't be talking. The young man slowly approached them, then spread open his palm, and the storage bags on the 5 people's bodies fell steadily into his hand with a pull of spirit energy. The young man smiled. The ancestral suction palm is still as useful as before. The eliminated disciple didn't give up, and asked, "Are you a disciple of the Shao clan?" Chapter 219. Xiao Yunqing. In the dark, Super Chen immediately frowned when he heard the young man in purple introduce himself. Wang Ming turned his head to look at him. "Do you know this person? When I was in junior high a few years ago, I represented the school in the 5-kilometer long-distance run, and I think he beat me. Although I came in second, the gap was really too big." Super Chen sighed. It was only later that I found out that this Xiao Yunqing was an outer sect disciple of the Shao family, and ranked first in the outer sect. If he can successfully get into a good university in 2 years, he'll definitely be promoted to the inner sect. Wang Ling stared at the young man in purple expressionlessly. This person was indeed very talented, and was stronger than most of the grade 1 students in number 60 high school. If Wang Ling was completely excluded from the elite class, probably only someone at Lotus Sun's level would have the ability to fight this Xiao Yunqing. After killing the 5 Reliance High School students, the purple-clothed youth began to search through the storage bags of the 5 students. He fixed his gaze on one of the eliminated disciples. "You've already picked up the airdrop over there, haven't you?" The eliminated disciple was pretty stubborn. "Hee, dead people don't talk. Go search it yourself," Xiao Yunqing shrugged helplessly, and could only confirm it himself. When he turned his head, the 5 Reliance High School students had already disappeared. After the green smoke signifying elimination was released, the small world's elimination mechanism would take effect. Any student who emitted the green smoke would be automatically teleported back to the small world after a minute. "AI, what a bunch of good-for-nothings." Xiao Yunqing sneered in his heart as he searched through the airdrop box. After searching for a while, he had an astonished expression on his face. "This is..." Then, he quickly put the contents of the airdrop box into his storage bag. There seems to be something good in that airdrop box. From a distance, Super Chen only saw the young man in purple quickly guide spirit light into the storage bag. His movements were so fast that Super Chen couldn't see what he had taken out at all. But right after that, Super Chen heard Xiao Yunqing complain. There's a gift bag of snacks in this airdrop box?" Xiao Yunqing took out an exquisite gift box from the box, opened the lid, and searched the box for a while. He took out a pack of crispy noodle snacks, and threw it on the ground disinterestedly. F***CK. Why is the airdrop crate full of trash? As soon as he said this, Wang Ling's face instantly darkened. It was an aura that Xiao Yunqing had never felt before. He felt a pair of eyes staring at him from behind. In the next moment, a strange phenomenon appeared in the sky above the ruins. Dark clouds shrouded the area, and silver snakes could be seen dancing in the air. Xiao Yunqing turned pale with fright as he raised his head. That was the small world's godly punishment stripe. Although the divine punishment bombardment zone would appear randomly on the map in this escape mechanism, there would be a public notification 5 minutes before the divine punishment bombardment would land. Xiao Yunqing couldn't understand why he suddenly fell into the god's punishment zone. In a panic, the purple-clothed youth wanted to hide in a stone hall not far away from him to avoid the divine punishment. However, it was too late. Xiao Yunqing was caught off guard by this divine punishment, completely out of his expectations. When he came back to his senses, Xiao Yunqing realized that there was already a wisp of green smoke rising behind him. Under the immense pressure of the godly punishment just now, the small world had actually judged him to be dead in advance. In the dark behind the stone wall, Wang Ming stared at the gradually disappearing Xiao Yunqing and smiled bitterly as he covered his face. His heart was as clear as a mirror. This murder had been triggered entirely by a packet of crispy noodle snacks. Before Xiao Yunqing disappeared, a lot of screens were flashing in the conference room outside. The old secretary, Audiobook, and the headmasters of the 6 schools were all watching the survival contest. Purple clothes, That's God Vision High School's uniform, right? That young man did pretty well. The old secretary was full of praise. Did you record that 1 versus 5 fight just now? Yes, we did. We have professionals who will record these exciting fight scenes into highlight reels. Audiobook replied. Headmaster's son of God Vision High School smiled slightly. Old secretary, you flatter me. That kid is our school's Xiao Yunqing. The old secretary rubbed his chin. He's a disciple of the Xiao family? Headmaster's son nodded. He's an outer sect disciple of the Xiao family, and is currently ranked number 1 in the outer sect. It's actually not easy for him to get to this point. The old secretary. Why do you say that? Headmaster's son. An outer sect disciple of the Xiao clan doesn't receive as many resources as an inner sect disciple to begin with. I know the student Xiao Yunqing quite well. He doesn't have an old grandfather, a younger sister, or a female confidant in his ring, and because of his spirit root, he can't even delve into the Xiao family's proudest alchemy skills. He doesn't usually go to auctions or the underground market, and is wholeheartedly obsessed with cultivation. Don't you think it's not easy for this student? All the headmasters. It does sound like it's not easy for this kid. The old secretary looked at the screen, his eyes fixed on Xiao Yunqing. Xiao Yunqing was currently searching through the airdrop box, and then he saw him take out a snack gift box and a packet of crispy noodle snacks from it, before finally throwing them on the ground in disappointment. Almost at the same time, everyone in the conference room saw that behind Xiao Yunqing, there was actually smoke. How on earth had he died? No one had clearly seen how this had happened. Headmaster's son got up excitedly. Can you show us the killer's image? The broadcast will automatically cut to the fight. In this case, if someone chose to assassinate him from a distance, the image won't be able to follow. Audiobook replied with a shake of his head. How could this be? Headmaster's son sat down in a daze and pulled at his hair like crazy. This Xiao Yunqing was his God Vision Academy's main force. He hadn't even made it to the top 9,000, and he had actually died just like that. Staring at the green smoke rising from Xiao Yunqing's back on the screen, Audiobook seemed to understand something. Actually, he had neglected to mention just now that there was actually a second reason for the wisp of green smoke coming out of Xiao Yunqing's back. In order to prevent students from using too much force in this survival contest, General E had specially set up an automatic judgment mechanism in the small world. When the small world determined that a person was definitely going to die, the smoke would automatically drift out. Judging from the way Xiao Yunqing had thrown the crispy noodle snacks, Audiobook had actually already completely understood at that time. He knew that Wang Ling was nearby. Only his Shifu had the power to influence the laws of the small world and directly determine that person's death. Chapter 220. How did this person die? Watching Xiao Yunqing disappear, Super Chun, who had been secretly observing all this time, had a surprised expression on his face. He felt that Xiao Yunqing's death was a little inexplicable. He hadn't even clearly seen how he had been hit, and the green smoke had already appeared on his back. Was this a trap? That shouldn't be possible. Using the 8th grade futon, Super Chun had sensed that they were the only ones in the vicinity of the remains. If someone had attacked with a long-range magic treasure nearby, they definitely wouldn't have been able to escape the detection range of the 8th grade futon. Furthermore, he seemed to have seen the godly punishment streak just now. The sky was suddenly shrouded in dark clouds that flickered like silver snakes. It wasn't until the green smoke appeared on Xiao Yunqing's back that the clouds dispersed. This process came very suddenly and disappeared very quickly. It lasted for about 30 seconds. Super Chun was sure that his eyes weren't playing tricks on him. Second brother, do you know what happened? Super Chun turned his head to stare at Wang Ming, who then turned his head slightly to look at Wang Ling out of the corner of his eye. This culprit looked like nothing had happened as he stared straight at the crispy noodle snacks on the ground not far away, as if his soul had been sucked out of his body. Wang Ming knew that if he didn't explain, Super Chun would become suspicious. Turning his head to look around, and after confirming that there was no one around, Wang Ming held out his fist. Do you see this fist the size of a sandbag? Just now, What you saw was the last form of my Turtle Wave Heart Sutra, the no-show wave. As soon as he said this, Super Chun felt like his brain had short-circuited. After several dozen seconds of silence, Super Chun suddenly turned his head to look at Wang Ming, and his eyes lit up. It was a look full of respect and adoration, and Wang Ming felt a little uncomfortable being stared at like that. Second brother, you're too strong. Super Chen's eyes sparkled. In fact, Wang Ming still felt that it was a pity in his heart. He actually hoped that one day Wang Ling would look at him the same way Super Chen did. But unfortunately, that wasn't going to happen. After confirming that there was no one nearby, the three of them surrounded Xiao Yunqing and started to search the storage bag he had left behind. Wang Ling silently put the crispy noodle snacks on the ground into his storage bag. Previously, Super Chun had seen Xiao Yunqing pick up something from the airdrop box with a surprised look on his face. After confirming it repeatedly, Super Chun took out a one-time use magic treasure from his storage bag. It was a sparkling glazed phoenix cup with red, green, and yellow as the main colors. It's actually the phoenix cup. Even without the electronic illustrated handbook, Super Chun recognized this magic treasure's origin. In junior high school, almost everyone had been to Songhai City's museum, and this phoenix cup was an ancient magic treasure recorded in the museum's history. Rumor had it that it was the unique magic weapon of the Fire Emperor, one of the three emperors in ancient times. Currently, only a small fragment of the phoenix cup was stored in the museum. The whereabouts of the other fragments were long unknown. Wang Ling stared at the phoenix cup, lost in thought. He had read about it in ancient texts, and knew that the phoenix cup had a great history. After all, it came from the ancient era, the same era as Old Demon Han and Old Demon Wang. At that time, the three emperors' magic weapons and Old Demon Han's sky bottle were great magic treasures that were neck and neck, and even had the title of a demigod weapon at that time. But the Phoenix Cup in the airdrop box had clearly been specially made by General Yi to popularize history among the students during the military training exercise for the 6 schools. There were actually a lot of one-time use magic treasures that General Yi had specially designed for the survival contest, based on famous magic weapons that had appeared in history. Super Chen carefully checked it with the electronic illustrated handbook, and the results were astonishing. This Phoenix Cup's lethality is actually at level 8. Even its damage range is at level 8. This is a great killing weapon. Max level? Wang Ming also stared at the Phoenix Cup and raised his eyebrows. Actually, this design is also reasonable. After all, the Phoenix Cup's power in ancient times was extraordinary. It's a demigod weapon that can summon a fire phoenix. In ancient texts, there is a history of the Fire Emperor throwing the cup in anger to destroy a demon city. Speaking up to this point, Wang Ming couldn't help sking. No wonder Xiao Yunqing had that kind of expression just now. This thing's lethality is really too great. If it's thrown into the city center, it's the same as summoning a godly punishment circle. At that time, anyone who's exposed to the sun will be eliminated. At that moment, Super Chen's electronic illustrated handbook vibrated, and a warm reminder appeared on it, which had been sent by Immortal Toya remotely. Super Chen looked at the message. Senior Toya said that the poisonous fog will start to shrink in 10 minutes. Should we retreat first? Those people lying in ambush in the desert should have already run toward the city center. Don't rush, we still have time. Since he had personally participated in making the map for this survival contest, Wang Ming knew the map's environment like the back of his hand. There's actually a small magic array in the ancient temple in front of the remains. What kind of magic array? Asked Super Chen. Have you heard of the ancient barter array? Wang Ming explained. The history of the magic array is based on this ancient barter method. In ancient times, this type of ancient barter array, which was set up by ancient almighties, would often appear. After you threw something precious into it, you would be able to exchange it for something of equal value. To put it bluntly, it was a kind of mutual benefit. But this kind of ancient barter array is actually quite deceptive. Sometimes what you want might not be what you want. As the three of them spoke, they walked toward the dilapidated ancient temple in front of them. Sure enough, As Wang Ming had said, there was a small magic array in the center of this half-open ancient temple. It actually wasn't very big, and was only the size of a millstone. Engraved on the side of the array were ancient characters that no one could understand. Super Chen looked at it in amazement. Brother Air, is this the ancient barter array from ancient times? That's right. Wang Ming nodded. Nowadays, very few people know how to set up this kind of array. General Yi personally set it up. But why did this kind of thing appear in the survival contest? Asked Super Chen. On the one hand, it's to popularize history, and on the other hand, it's probably General Yi's own bad taste. You can think of this magic array as an Easter egg, answered Wang Ming. Wang Ling. Super Chen. Then what do we do? Wang Ming. Just throw in anything you don't think is useful from your storage bag. Oh. Super Chen directly took out the extra fourth-class prayer mat from his storage bag and threw it in. The instant it approached the light of the magic array, it turned into powder and then gradually melted into the array. Holding their breaths, they quietly watched the changes in the array. Before long, Wang Ling saw a ray of light appear. It was the array spirit of the ancient barter array. There was a flash of spirit light in the array spirit's hands, and 3 items instantly appeared between them. It looked at Super Chen with a placid expression, and asked in an extremely low and magnetic voice, "May I ask, did you lose this gold cushion, silver cushion, or this jade cushion?" Chapter 221. More than 2 hours had passed in the survival contest, and nearly 1,000 people had already been eliminated. The final number of people on the plateau of the boundary pillar was also fixed at 9,118. Furthermore, it had already been a very long time since this number had changed. The competition lasted for a very long time, and no one wanted to lose their lives so soon after it started. After the initial scramble for resources when they had landed, the students from the 6 schools had started to carry out the 10,000 years of hiding tactic after occupying advantageous territory, crouching in advantageous terrain, and waiting for an outsider to make the first move before launching a counterattack. This was practically the common thinking of the students from the 6 schools in the early stages of this survival contest. The electronic illustrated handbooks were scattered all over the map and weren't hard to find. But because of the decision of the heads of the 6 schools, the students of number 59 high school and number 60 high school each had an electronic illustrated handbook, which gave them a huge advantage in checking the map's location and obtaining information on magic treasures. All the main doors of a large supermarket had been sealed shut. A group of students from number 59 high school and number 60 high school, led by the delinquent senior He Buffing, had gathered here. Little Peanut and Dopey Guo were mixed in with this group. At the same time, everyone received a message from Immortal Toya via the electronic illustrated handbook. The poisonous fog beyond the horizon had already started to shrink for the first time. Little Peanut carefully compared the coordinates on the map and said in a low voice, "The scope of the first layer of the poisonous fog won't be too large. We're close to the center of the circle, so it's actually very safe for now." He Buffering nodded and swept his gaze over the 30 or 40 people around him. "This position is very advantageous for us. This supermarket has a lot of map resources. Even without the airdrops outside, we can pick up spirit swords. And there's even a surplus of spirit talismans and all kinds of single-use magic treasures. This is simply a circle of destiny," someone said excitedly. In order to reflect the authenticity of the map simulation this time, even the things on the shelves of the supermarket were real. All kinds of replenishing elixirs, food, water. This large supermarket had an extremely advantageous position. The only one who was a little out of sorts at the moment was Dopey Gua. From being transported butt naked into the small world, spiraling up to a height of 5,000 meters, and finally falling down again, Dopey Gua felt that he was already a little hopeless. "Is Brother Gua's stomach any better? What on earth did you eat?" He Buffing frowned. He and Tang Jingza had personally experienced Mother Wan's cooking. Although the names were very strange, the truth was that they tasted pretty good, and it was obvious that it contained a chef's deep love for the children. No, you completely don't understand how terrifying Mother Wan's experimental cuisine is. When Little Peanut said this, he couldn't help shuddering. Last time, when Mother Wan cooked up a trial version of her cooking, a teacher at the peak late golden core stage in our school had to lie in the hospital for 20 days because it tasted so good. Even his golden core shriveled up. He buffing asked, "Is it really that scary, Little Peanut?" Fortunately, classmate Hero Gwa only took one bite. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't even be able to find your 2 eggs in the future. Everyone. Meanwhile, 2 figures stood at the top of a tall building in the center of the small world city. One of them was Immortal Toya, a handsome man with gray hair and an ancient style. Next to him stood a hunched old man, Li Su from the 7 Stars Cultivation Special Forces. He was now number 60 High's chief school guard. Old Li, standing at the top of the tall building, Immortal Toya gazed into the distance at the city, which had already calmed down. "I never thought that we would meet again here." With his hands behind his back, Old Li's eyes were calm. "It's also thanks to Senior Toya that we're able to gather together this time. Because of a series of mistakes back then, the 7 of us suffered serious internal injuries, and the headmaster had no choice but to reorganize the 7 stars. Although I've been a school guard in the last few years, I've been invited by Headmaster Xingye many times to train the juniors of the new 7 stars. Xingye." Speaking up to this point, Immortal Toya suddenly fell silent. "How is she?" Old Li narrowed his eyes and smiled. Senior Toya's heartless rejection back then was a huge blow to Headmaster Xingye. After that trauma, Headmaster Xingye has been immersed in her career, and it's been a long time since she's met the right person. I think it would be better for Senior Toya to personally go and greet her. "Forget it, I don't have the courage." Immortal Toya smiled awkwardly. "If I go in person, I'll definitely be killed by her." "Old Li, that will depend on Senior Toya's decision. But I heard Headmaster Xingye say something at the school's annual party last time. She said that she absolutely wouldn't give up." Immortal Toya rubbed his hair, feeling a headache coming on. He felt that it was necessary for him to mass-produce medicine for injuries and bruises in the next stage. In fact, Headmaster Xingye of 7 Stars Sect had only recently instructed Old Li to pass on these words to him. Actually, everyone in the cultivation circle knew about the little gossip between Immortal Toya and Headmaster Xingye back then. Because Headmaster Xingye of 7 Stars Sect had been rejected when he took the initiative to confess, Headmaster Xingye of 7 Stars Sect had monopolized movie theater seats throughout Huaxiao Nation for 3 whole years, making all the couples miserable. After saying this much, Old Li decided to bring the topic back on track. He looked in the direction of the small world's desert. Senior Toya should have also sensed it. "I sensed the aura of a godly punishment earlier, but now isn't the time for the godly punishment circle to open. So I find it a little strange." The gray-haired young man hummed in agreement, then nodded with an indifferent expression on his face. "I've already checked. Senior Ling is there, so there's nothing strange about it." "So Consultant Ling is there?" Old Li was startled. "But there doesn't seem to be any signal from him on the radar." Senior Ling hides his aura very well. If it wasn't for the fact that he was exposed by the godly punishment just now, I might not have been able to pinpoint his location. As for the problem with the radar, I think it's probably because Senior Ling's older brother blocked his signal. Whether it's us or the conference room outside, we can't see his image. Senior Ling has an older brother? Old Li felt like his worldview had been overturned a little. The gray-haired young man smiled. "Do you know the strongest brain in the Cultivation Academy of Science?" Old Li felt like his worldview had been overturned a little. "Sure enough, Consultant Ling's strength and family background are beyond our comprehension." Old Li sighed. "Come to think of it, there are still a lot of people in the small world. Furthermore, they haven't moved for a long time. If this goes on, will the competition really go on smoothly?" General E already expected that the students would choose to lay low during this period of time. No one wants to be eliminated so soon. Immortal Toya replied, "The scope of the poisonous fog is getting larger each time, which means that the students will have less and less space to use their abilities. When the time comes, the victor will be decided. Oh, by the way, Li Su, actually I also have a question. Old Li, Senior Toya, please speak your mind. Immortal Toya looked at the street under his feet. I want to know, what's the deal with that green-furred Akita? Old Li, this is a dog that Consultant Ling's class raised with funds. Because there were too few participants in number 59 high school and number 60 high school this time. Consultant Ling's teacher in charge, Teacher Pan, applied to let this dog join. It's called Loopy Toad, and it's currently living in Consultant Ling's house. Living in Senior Ling's house? Living in that kind of holy land? Chapter 222. In the conference room, apart from headmasters Chun and Jean, all the other headmasters had shocked expressions on their faces. Why was there a dog? Sitting at the very front, the old secretary looked at the flickering screen with a very calm expression. I know this dog. Furthermore, a teacher from number 60 high school reported it to me, and I personally approved it, so I didn't specifically greet you. But, old secretary, you should also know that this is just a dog. How can it compete with students from our key schools? Headmaster Hong of Prime Elevation High School was a little unhappy. Number 59 high school and number 60 high school students don't have the advantage in numbers to begin with. Letting this spirit dog in is actually also out of consideration for balance. The old secretary swept his gaze over the headmasters. Also, you probably don't know, but this number 60 high school dog is a meritorious service dog. When Shadow Stream attacked back then, this dog single-handedly killed an assassin who was trying to harm the students. When the old secretary said this, the headmasters were instantly speechless. Winning this survival contest is one thing, but we also have to make sure that education is fun. Why do you think General E came up with so many strange magic treasures in the magic treasure design process? Isn't it to teach the students about history while they're away from the competition? The old secretary stroked his beard stubble, his expression unfathomable. So I think it's also very important to promote the concept of harmonious coexistence between humans and animals. All the headmasters. The old secretary. Of course, General E has already considered this aspect. He also specially designed a magic treasure to be mixed into the map to effectively promote communication between students and animals. A magic treasure that could promote harmonious coexistence between humans and animals? On the side, Ajwa cupped his chin in his hand as he pondered deeply. General E had designed too many magic treasures for this survival contest. Although Ajwa had already seen a lot of them on the list, there were simply too many for his eyes to take in. What kind of magic treasure is that? At that moment a voice rang out. To everyone's surprise, the person who had raised the question this time was actually that crazy devil Patriarch Reliance, who had been cultivating in seclusion. Patriarch Reliance sighed. I've always admired General Yi's passion for creating magic treasures. If General Yi hadn't completed the basic blueprint for the 7-star sword back then, Immortal Jinyuan wouldn't have been able to use it as a foundation to improve it, and the legendary 7-star sword with the power to move mountains wouldn't have existed. No matter how many times I hear it, I always feel that General E is very amazing. Headmaster Chen couldn't help exclaiming in admiration. This was a truly extraordinary man. Back then, the 10 founding generals had even competed with the legendary Devil Emperor Guapai. He was now a Magic Treasures Grandmaster, who controlled Huaxiao Nation's largest magic treasure processing factory. Although he sometimes had some strange ideas when it came to the creation of magic treasures, General Yi's strength and contribution to the history of magic treasures were absolutely second to none. Principals, please be quiet. Let's listen to the Secretary's introduction of the magic treasure that promotes the harmonious development of humans and animals. Without waiting for the headmasters to continue the topic of General E, Ajwa hurriedly brought it back. He wouldn't be able to finish talking about General Yi's glorious deeds, even if he spent another 3 days and 3 nights. The old secretary's eyes were calm. Seeing that the surroundings had quietened down, he said, "It's an umbrella made from strong spider silk, sharp white wolf teeth, and various complicated magic tool formulas. As long as you fill the umbrella with spiritual power and open it, you can summon 1,000 spirit chickens from the sky. Those chickens are all white chickens directly imported from the chicken factory in the suburbs, and each chicken is quite plump and juicy. Promoting the harmonious development of humans and animals, your sister. Why did it have to be 1,000 plump and juicy white chickens? Was this a magic treasure that could only help people and animals develop in harmony if they didn't eat it? Hearing this, Audiobook had the urge to roar. He already had no illusions about this magic treasure at all. It was very obvious that General E had asked someone to make it for fun. Sure enough, old cadres nowadays didn't live in harmony in their later years. Did they all like to delve into strange things? General E liked to research and develop magic treasures, while Secretary Dakong liked to race. Before the meeting, Audiobook remembered that he had to persuade Secretary Dakong for a long time before he reluctantly took off his motorcycle helmet. The Grand 10 founding generals all liked to act cute. What kind of propriety was that? Audiobook rubbed his temples in pain. It could be said that he had really worried himself to death for this group of old leaders. Everyone knew that the 10 founding generals had made great contributions to Huaxiu Nation back then. Many of them had even given up on love. Although they were all old people now, none of the 10 of them were married. Audiobook felt that he should organize this group of leaders to go on, if you are the one, at some point. When all was said and done, the big problem was that they didn't have children. If they had children, who would have the energy to study these strange things? But it was clear that the old secretary hadn't reached the root of the problem. He looked around and then asked, "Aren't you curious about the name of this umbrella that can instantly summon 1,000 white chickens?" Patriarch Reliance. "So what's it called?" "1,000 Chickens Umbrella," the old secretary replied. Audiobook already didn't want to speak. On the street, Loopy Toad couldn't help sneezing. The topic of harmonious development between humans and animals was actually quite unfriendly to Loopy Toad. After all, it knew that it had been a demon king in its past life, although it had already turned over a new leaf under Little Master Ling's guidance. Even the demon chi source it needed to cultivate the Demon King Heart Sutra had been replaced with spirit chi source thanks to Little Master Ling's harmonization. So in theory, Loopy Toad had already completely broken away from its previous identity as a demon king. The spirit energy source in Loopy Toad's body was very pure. It was even cleaner than that of some foundation establishment students. It was precisely because of this that it had obtained Secretary Dakong's permission to participate in this survival contest. If there had been even the slightest trace of demon chi in its body, Loopy Toad believed that Secretary Dakong would have smacked it to death with one palm before it could even enter, and its soul would have been directly destroyed. Of course, Wang Ling had no idea at all about coming to the survival contest this time. That was because after he had reported to school in the morning, Number 60 High had specially sent someone to the Wang family's small villa to pick it up. Sitting in Number 60 High's private car at that time, Loopy Toad had thought that this could be considered some kind of mysterious fate with Little Master Ling. In any case, Loopy Toad felt that the most important thing now was to find Little Master Ling. It magnified its sense of smell, and its gaze finally locked onto the direction of the small world's desert. Chapter 223. Even if it was just an ordinary dog, it had a very keen sense of smell. Science showed that a dog's sense of smell was more than 1,000 times more sensitive than a human's. Since accepting reality and becoming a dog, Loopy Toad's sense of smell had been improving. Logically speaking, a cultivator's 5 senses were 100 times stronger than an ordinary person's, and as a cultivation dog, Loopy Toad's sense of smell was more than 1,000 times stronger than a cultivator's. Hence, it could often smell some strange things. For example, when it was in the Wang family's small villa, Loopy Toad could smell Mother Wang's perfume in the bedroom on the 3rd floor, Father Wang's smelly socks in the study, and the crispy noodle snacks Wang Ling was eating in his room. It's definitely that place. On the roof, Loopy Toad stared in the direction of the ruins in the desert. What was strange was that apart from Wang Ling's scent, It also smelled something wretched. But Loopy Toad was sure that this wasn't Wang Ling's scent. Their young master was a person who loved to be clean. Loopy Toad wagged its tail on the roof, and with a light leap, it covered dozens of meters, sprinting wildly in the direction of the ruins at several times the speed of a 100-meter sprint. In the surrounding buildings, the students sitting on futons and relying on their amplified spiritual senses to sense their surroundings opened their eyes wide at that moment, as if they had been startled awake. "What's wrong?" asked a teammate on the side. "I think I saw a green dog. Was it accidentally teleported in?" "I don't think so." The student shook his head, a horrified expression on his face. When he had checked with his spiritual senses just now, he had felt that the dog had jumped too high and didn't look like a proper dog at all. Furthermore, it had run at an astonishing speed, like a bolt of lightning, and had actually left the range of his spiritual senses in the blink of an eye. Because of Wang Ming's previous wrong decision, the array spirit of the ancient barter array had furiously taken away everything he had on him. Wang Ming half knelt on the ground and apologized sincerely to the array spirit of the ancient barter array. "Ah, beautiful Miss Array Spirit. I was wrong. I shouldn't have made the wrong choice in a moment of heat for my own selfish desires." Array Spirit. Wang Ming. Also Miss Array Spirit. Don't you think that my choices correspond to the four most precious qualities of humans? Array Spirit. Question mark. Wang Ming. If you don't fast forward, it means you're steady. Watching porn and not indulging in it represented integrity. If he didn't take it out after reading it, it meant that he was persistent. To be able to watch the video after masturbating, it means that you're persistent. As soon as Wang Ming said this, Wang Ling and Super Chun felt like they had been struck by lightning. The Zhenling took a deep breath, feeling that the man in front of him was already hopeless. "So, this is the reason why you chose the jade cushion." The array spirit didn't dwell too much on Wang Ming, and confiscated everything he had obtained from the small world. General Yi's spirit talisman and the staff's radar system, which were all public property, were ultimately kept. Wang Ming breathed a huge sigh of relief at this result. Fortunately, the golden talisman was still there. With the golden talisman, he could continue to act tough. For the first time, Wang Ling felt that his elder brother wasn't just stupid. He also had no integrity. When they came out of the ancient temple, Wang Ming looked in the direction of the boundary pillar. It had already been nearly 20 minutes since they had entered the ancient temple, and the final number of people in the sky still hadn't changed much. There were still more than 9,100 people. "Now, are we still going to the city center?" Super Chun looked in the direction of the city center with a headache. It hadn't been easy for them to get rich just now, but who would have thought that because of Wang Ming, they would be sent back to square one? Most of the consumables, elixirs, spirit talismans, and so on that they had collected earlier had been confiscated by the array spirit. The only good news was that the 8th grade prayer cushion and the Phoenix cup were still there. This left Super Chun speechless. Who would have thought that at this critical moment, they would actually send the array spirit an express delivery? With these resources, Super Chun had initially planned to go to the center of the city and fight it out. But the current situation didn't look optimistic. The current situation proved that a lot of people were lying in wait in the city center and were unwilling to show their faces. If they went there now, they would only be treated as live targets. So taking the above situation into account, it could be said that the Phoenix Cup was their greatest hope now. But what on earth should they do? Super Chun clutched his head, feeling a little frantic. "Don't panic, aren't classmate Wang Ling and I here? I heard that classmate Wang Ling is our class mascot, so I'm sure it won't be a problem." Wang Ming grinned. "Wang Ling, you're the mascot." Given that the current situation wasn't too good, the three of them decided to wait in the remains for a while longer, and then head to the city center when the next wave of poisonous fog began to shrink. But it wasn't long before Wang Ling suddenly realized that the scenery around him had unexpectedly started to gradually turn misty. "Is this fog?" Super Chun rubbed his eyes. As soon as he said this, he instantly felt like he was going to collapse, and his head felt like lead had been poured into it. In a flash, this muscular sportsman, weighing 170 kg, plunged into Wang Ming's arms next to him. There's something wrong with this white fog. Wang Ming took out the golden talisman which General Yi had given him, and noticed that it was flashing. It was General Yi's golden talisman that was protecting him, otherwise he would have collapsed long ago. The appearance of this white fog was very sudden and very strange. What frightened Wang Ming the most was that it hadn't been long since it had appeared. But Super Chun, this rough man, had actually directly fainted. The only thing he could be sure of was that this was definitely an abnormal phenomenon. After the poisonous fog had shrunk earlier, the people who had been lingering in the desert had long since gone to the city center to look for a place to stay. The three of them were the only group left in the desert. Without the disturbance of external factors, the appearance of this white mist was extremely abnormal. Ling, what the hell is going on? Wang Ming looked a little panicked, because he realized that all the electronic products he had on him had unexpectedly lost their effectiveness in this white fog. Wang Ling got up and looked around calmly. At that moment, Wang Ming could clearly see that Wang Ling's body was enveloped in a faint golden light. Oh no, even the protective golden light has appeared. As expected, this fog is poisonous. Wang Ming was a little scared. Ling, if I breathe in this fog, will I go from being the strongest brain to being the strongest retard? Wang Ling. Without answering Wang Ming, Wang Ling closed his eyes and carefully felt out the composition of the white fog. As Wang Ming had said, this white fog wasn't simple at all. Furthermore, it had a kind of weakening power. Forget a foundation establishment cultivator. Even a golden core cultivator would be directly knocked out by it. The most important thing was that this white fog was very toxic and concentrated, and Wang Ling couldn't directly disperse it. The air in the small world circulated. If he waved his hand to disperse this fog, it would mix with the air in this small world, and all the students here would suffer. There was only one last option left. Wang Ling stared at the strange white fog in his field of vision, which he had no idea where it had come from, and took a deep breath. Instantly, a vast expanse of white fog flowed through Wang Ling's nose and into his stomach like a torrent. Chapter 224. Because he had inhaled this white fog, his stomach instantly swelled up like a balloon, but it was very quickly purified by his internal organs. A sage body wasn't just indestructible on the outside. Its ability to purify the internal organs was also top-notch, and it could instantly dispel all kinds of strange poisons in the world. Looking at this scene, Wang Ming finally breathed a sigh of relief. Super Chun? Super Chun. He nudged Super Chun, but realized that there was no sign of this guy waking up. He was instantly a little unhappy. Wang Ming thought that apart from Wang Ling, the only person in the world who could lie in his arms was his future wife. Under normal circumstances, Wang Ming would never allow a third person to take advantage of him. Seeing the deep contemplation in Wang Ming's eyes, even if Wang Ling didn't read minds, he knew that this idiot brother of his was most likely letting his imagination run wild again. A ball of white light lit up at his fingertips as Wang Ling touched Super Chun's forehead and used the great purification spell to disperse the white poisonous fog that Super Chun had inhaled. Although Super Chun was still in a coma, he was generally fine. What was left was to find the source of this white poisonous fog. Wang Ling narrowed his eyes and opened his heavenly eye to the maximum, and like a searchlight, he began to search the ruins inch by inch. The origin of this white fog was very unusual, and it gave him a familiar feeling. He remembered that when he had been tricked into becoming a spell consultant for the 7-Star Special Forces 3 years ago, when he had entered the gate between worlds to save old Li and his gang, there had been elements of this white poisonous fog that seemed familiar to him. Thinking this, a thought flashed through Wang Lingzhong's mind. He remembered that this white mist was mixed with the demonic aura from the gate between worlds. But why was there demon chi here? While he was pondering this, his gaze fell on a spot in the center of the ruins behind a stone pillar. He realized that there was actually an array guiding flag there. Underground in the small world, the old devil had opened up a new secret room. The entire room was enveloped in the purple gold quartz fog, which formed a natural barrier that completely cut off any outside interference. In front of the old devil was a crystal coffin with a skeleton inside. The skeleton was very well preserved and looked like a carved work of art. Every bone was sparkling and translucent and shone with a faint light. Inside the stone ghost mask, Jiang Luiyue was shocked. This was the first time she had seen the skeleton of an ancient almighty, a skeleton that could resurrect this old devil who had once shaken Huaxiao Nation. Jiang Luiyue already couldn't imagine the origin of the almighty behind this skeleton. At the very least, he would be a great senior after the form synthesis stage. Jiang Luiyue guessed that it was between the tribulation stage and the great vehicle stage. Are you shocked? Stroking the crystal coffin, the old devil also sighed deeply. When my venerable self found this skeleton 2,000 years ago, wasn't I amazed? This skeleton is too perfect. It's as if it was tailor-made for me. 2,000 years? Jiang Luiyue was once again amazed by this old devil's foresight. He had actually already found a way out for her at that time? With his hands clasped behind his back, the old devil did some calculations on his fingers. It's been a while since the array guiding flags were set up. The demon chi of the gate between worlds should have already seeped into this small world, and the gate of the gate between worlds is about to descend. Now is the best time to set up the reincarnation array. Speaking up to this point, the old devil opened the crystal coffin. Without the seal of the crystal coffin, the pressure exerted by the skeleton of the ancient almighty was simply suffocating. The moment the coffin opened, a powerful sense of oppression abruptly descended. The ground under the old devil's feet shook, and both his feet sank under the pressure. Fortunately, the old devil had been prepared for this. Together with the Taoist robe he was wearing and the protective light shield he was operating, he could just about resist this pressure. Everything is within my consideration. The old devil smiled slightly. With a wave of his hand, 8 candles instantly appeared in this crowded underground space. Using magic energy to connect with the netherworld fire to light the candles was the first and most crucial step in setting up the reincarnation array. During the reincarnation process, the extinguishing of any one candle would result in the failure of the reincarnation. This was also why the old devil had chosen to open up a space underground. Now, as long as my venerable self fills up this skeleton and absorbs the vitality, it will be done. Looking at the 8 lit candles, the old devil's movements became more careful. In the stone ghost mask, Jiang Luiyue saw the old devil take out 2 large sacks from his storage space. Lord Devil Emperor, what's this? This is filthy earth. The old devil replied in a low voice. Next, my venerable self just needs to apply filthy earth to the skeleton, cast a spell, and activate the reincarnation array. So it was filthy earth. Jiang Luiyue was stupefied once again, her heart utterly shaken. Could this be the legendary filthy earth reincarnation spell? Filthy earth reincarnation spell? When you say rebirth, you mean rebirth of life, right? The old devil sneered. This kind of spell actually doesn't exist at all. How can it be possible to be reborn by simply molding a body with filthy earth? Otherwise, do you think those ancient almighties were all fools? Jiang Luiyue. The conditions for reconstructing a body for reincarnation are very harsh. Apart from finding a skeleton that matches your own type, you also need to find enough filthy earth. Based on this foundation, you can consider the reincarnation array. Otherwise, there's no point in talking about it. The old devil sighed. Furthermore, the sale of filthy earth is currently a strictly restricted and scarce resource, and it's worth as little as dirt. My venerable self found these 2 bags of filthy earth in the tomb of this almighty when I found this ancient skeleton. My venerable self reckons that this almighty originally wanted to use it for himself. Unfortunately, this person's days were numbered, and he didn't have the fortune to enjoy it. Jiang Luiyue was blank. So Lord Devil Emperor is picking up leftovers? You can't say that. The old devil shook his head. Picking up leftovers is also a manifestation of luck. Back then, that old man Yi Jianchuan was just a little bit away from completely destroying my venerable self. Unfortunately, he couldn't have imagined that my venerable self would make a mistake and seal myself in the stone ghost mask, causing my aura to disappear from this world. Although my physical body disappeared because of this, it also allowed my soul to recover during this period of time when I was sealed. So, all of this proves that my venerable self isn't fated to die. Jiang Luyue. Then dare I ask, Senior, what spell are you using now? The old devil. Have you heard of the filthy earth reincarnation spell? The body I'm talking about is the body of the body. Jiang Luyue. Filthy earth reincarnation spell? That's right. The old devil nodded. Just as he said this, the old devil used spirit energy to flip the ancient almighty skeleton in front of him. So, the key to using this spell is to apply filthy earth on both sides of the skeleton. When you use it, you must remember to flip it over. Chapter 225. An array guiding flag? Why was there such a thing here? Wang Ming stared blankly at the fluttering flag on the ground. If anyone else had been here, they definitely wouldn't have been able to figure it out. That was because array guiding flags had disappeared from the market 1,000 years ago and couldn't even be bought on the black market. The production of these magic treasures had already been strictly prohibited, and the worst thing was that they would be used by criminals. Although Wang Ming wasn't a cultivator, he had done a lot of research on cultivation. Relying on this most powerful brain's understanding of cultivation theory alone, it was likely that he had already surpassed a lot of genuine cultivators. Wang Ming stared at the flag, his pupils turning like a scanner as rows of numbers rolled around in his eyes. After a moment, he analyzed it and was certain that this flag hadn't been produced in the modern era. It had been around for a very long time, at least 1,000 years. Carrying Super Chun on his back, Wang Ming pondered deeply. What on earth was going on? Actually, the situation was already very clear. This demon chi was definitely released by the gate between worlds. Wang Ling narrowed his eyes, and spirit light blossomed in his pupils. Because Wang Ming didn't have the heavenly eye, he couldn't see the array that had been set up around the array guiding flag. But Wang Ling could see it clearly. This was a summoning array that had already been set up and had already been in operation for some time. What was worse was that it had already entered the completion stage. Wang Ling estimated that the gate between worlds would descend from here in 2 minutes. Ling, are you saying that the gate between worlds is going to descend here? Hearing Wang Ling's explanation, Wang Ming's face turned a little unsightly. His electronic equipment was broken, and he couldn't even call for backup at a time like this. Furthermore, he had already blocked Wang Ling and Super Chen's radar signals. The surveillance cameras in the conference room outside wouldn't be able to capture what was happening here. Everything was terrible. What should he do? Cold sweat trickled down Wang Ming's cheeks as he looked at the protective golden light around him and Super Chen, a little absent-minded. In this tense atmosphere, Wang Ling just patted Wang Ming on the shoulder indifferently. He really didn't know why his dumbass brother was panicking when he was around. Facts had proven that no matter how close a family member was, after a long period of not living together, there would be a certain deviation in their understanding of each other. He remembered that he had lived with Wang Ming as a child, and that was probably when Wang Ming had understood him the most. Wang Ming was keen on meaningless challenges, such as rock, paper, scissors, high jumps, sprints, or comparing little Wang Ming and little Wang Ling's lengths. Sometimes, he would even compete with Wang Ling in peeing speed. Unfortunately, he failed all these challenges. Later, Wang Ming was taken away by the people from the Cultivation Academy of Science to receive state protection, and the two brothers met less and less often. At most, they would only see each other once during festive reunions. Sometimes, Wang Ming didn't even go home for the new year, just in time for a new breakthrough in research at the Academy of Science. Wang Ling remembered that the last time he had met Wang Ming was the day this idiot brother of his had given him the Tao Talisman seal. And this meeting was entirely because Wang Ming had brought his research team along on official business. But even if you beat him to death, he would never have thought, his elder brother. He had actually misunderstood his own strength. Speaking of Wang Ming's understanding of Wang Ling's strength, Wang Ling's innate and unstoppable growth in realms had resulted in him reaching the soul formation stage at the age of 7, and he hadn't even had enough time to consolidate his cultivation before he was already on his way to the next realm. Since then, wearing the Tao Talisman seal had become his daily routine. It was stuck to his arm like a band-aid, and he couldn't take it off even when he showered. So of course Wang Ming knew that Wang Ling was very strong, but he had always thought that there was a limit to this strength. He was still fantasizing about when he could defeat Wang Ling. Just as Wang Ling had expected, the ground under their feet started to shake 2 minutes later. The array with the array guiding flags burst out with light, and the mysterious ancient characters on the array disc spun continuously around it, giving off an oppressive aura. BZT. Then, a chaotic light surged out of the array. Wang Ling narrowed his eyes and turned up the golden light shield that he had given to Wang Ming and Super Chun to the maximum. Their bodies wouldn't be able to withstand this spatial disorder at all. At that moment, if any other student had been here, they would have been directly torn to shreds by this chaotic light. This light carried with it a piercingly cold pressure, and it felt as if a century had passed accompanied by this light. A glowing door gradually appeared in the center of the array guiding flags. The door, which was covered in interwoven archaic characters, was more than 30 meters tall. Strange symbols were carved on the door frame, and they overlapped each other, making it impossible to tell what they were. The light lingering on the door was also unusually bright, and Wang Ming felt like he couldn't keep his eyes open, and it took him a long time to gradually adjust to it. Even with the golden light shield that Wang Ling had given him, he found it a little difficult to even breathe under the continuous illumination of this evil light. This is the gate between worlds. Chapter 226. After Wang Ling closed the gate between worlds, the scene became quiet once more. According to the records of the previous gate between worlds, when the gate between worlds was fully opened, a storm of demonic aura would surge out, and the entire city would be corroded by the demonic aura, causing all kinds of abnormal natural disasters. But he couldn't see this kind of big scene at all now. Apart from the chaotic light fluctuations caused by the gate's descent, Wang Ming couldn't see any other abnormal phenomena. Wang Ling had closed the door too quickly. The gate between worlds had just opened a crack when it was slammed shut with a dong sound. Wang Ming could even see the cracks on the door frame like a spider web, which was enough to prove how much force Wang Ling had used to close the door. Wang Ming's mouth was completely agape as he stared dumbstruck at this scene. With one hand, he had closed the door. This was enough to prove that the explosive force of Wang Ling's single arm was at least 1 billion jin. This kind of strength once again refreshed Wang Ming's understanding of the upper limit of Wang Ling's strength. He had thought that Wang Ling wouldn't be able to exert this kind of strength at all with the Tao Talisman seal on him. God knew that this Tao Talisman seal really only helped Wang Ling better control his strength and conceal his aura. At this thought, Wang Ming couldn't help breaking out in a cold sweat. He really couldn't imagine how terrifying Wang Ling would be if he removed this Tao Talisman seal. So, the gate between worlds closed just like that? With Super Chun on his back, Wang Ming blinked at the huge door in front of him in a daze. The speed at which it closed was too fast. Wang Ming even felt that even if the radar hadn't been blocked on this side, the broadcast from the conference room outside might not have been able to cut in at all. Furthermore, Wang Ming could already imagine the Demon King's expression inside the gate between worlds, as if it had just eaten shit. Such a thick arm was as long as 2 or 3 adults, and blue veins bulged on it, as if they were coiled around a horned dragon. Judging from the size of the arm alone, Wang Ming felt that the Demon King behind the door was at least 20 meters tall. 6 years ago, after the demon army had experienced a collective withdrawal, it was very obvious that this Demon King had mustered up its courage to stretch out its hand. Its heart had been filled with the joy of reviving the demon race in the future, the excitement of realizing the great dream of restoring the glory of the demon race, and the anticipation of the demon race descending upon all human cultivators. However, just as he stretched out his hand, it was F*** King broken. A few seconds before the gate between worlds descended, Loopy Toad had actually already arrived nearby. Then, it saw that familiar chaotic light surging out from the gate between worlds. But Loopy Toad wasn't the least bit afraid, because it had also come out of that door 6 years ago. However, the ending was somewhat tragic. Not long after it came out, 10-year-old Wang Ling punched it in the stomach, scaring the demon army behind it into directly retreating. When it saw the gate between worlds descend again this time, Loopy Toad's first feeling was that it was familiar, and at the same time, a little strange. This was a small world that General E had specially created for the students in this survival contest. Logically speaking, something as dangerous as the gate between worlds would never appear here. So when Loopy Toad saw the gate between worlds, it instantly guessed that someone had summoned it here. However, who would have the guts and the ability to activate the gate between worlds and communicate with the demons inside? Loopy Toad couldn't think of a reasonable answer at all. It was at that moment that Loopy Toad saw the gate between worlds open in the distance, and a thick purple demon claw stretched out from inside. Loopy Toad's eyes widened. This is the Troll Clan? It recognized the origin of this demon claw at almost one glance. Every demon had a demon talisman on them, which corresponded to their clan and identity. Loopy Toad was 100% sure that this was a troll demon claw. Furthermore, judging from the size of the arm alone, Loopy Toad was certain that this was a chief demon king of the Troll Clan. The Sky-Swallowing Toad Clan was ranked 28th on the top 100 list of the demon race, and ranked above average. But the Troll Clan was the genuine top dog of the demon race, and was ranked in the top 10. An elder of the Troll Clan was already as strong as Loopy Toad at its peak, let alone a chief demon king? What should it do? Should it attack? 1 inch, another inch. Loopy Toad saw the purple demon claw stretch out from the crack in the door bit by bit, and in the end, a whole arm directly stretched out and pressed against the door. It's coming out! The moment it saw that arm, Loopy Toad's nerves straightaway tightened. Back then, Wang Ling had only used one punch to destroy it. But when all was said and done, this was a demon ranked in the top 10, and was also the chief of the Troll Clan. Given that Wang Ling had a talisman seal on him, Loopy Toad felt that it was really hard to say what the outcome would be. Loopy Toad felt that it could actually negotiate with the Troll Clan, but it also felt that this chief demon wouldn't listen to it at all. At that moment, Loopy Toad was very anxious. But it was at that moment that it saw Wang Ling walk toward the gate between worlds step by step. With a push of his hand, the door slammed shut with a bam. Loopy Toad. And then, there was no. And then, Loopy Toad saw that giant troll arm snap just like that. And it fell from the air before crashing to the ground with a crash. This scene was a little familiar. Loopy Toad never expected that after 6 years, the demon race's invasion would actually fail once again. Furthermore, the situation this time was even more tragic. At the very least, a few demons had managed to sneak in during the previous invasion. This time, they didn't even get to take a step inside before Wang Ling mercilessly blocked them outside. 100 years later, at the top of a cliff inside the gate between worlds. This was the Troll Clan's ancestral land. A one-armed old troll was sitting on the cliff with his grandson in his arms, enjoying the breeze. His temples were gray, and his long white hair hung down in a pile at his side. The old troll was already old. He had retired from his high position behind the scenes to begin his life of retirement, and now had a house full of children and grandchildren. The grandson in his arms was already 200 years old, but he was only a little over 4 meters tall. For the long-lived Troll Clan, he was still just a tiny dot. As the breeze blew over the cliff, the one-armed old troll's grandson woke up from his deep sleep. He rubbed his eyes and stared at his grandfather. Grandpa, how on earth did you lose your arm? The one-armed old troll. Why do you ask this question every day? His grandson asked the same question every day as soon as he woke up. He was about to go crazy. The little troll. Because I'm really curious. But Grandpa always refuses to tell me. The old troll looked at his grandson and said faintly, "You really want to know?" The little troll nodded his head like a chicken pecking at rice. I'm guessing that when Grandpa was fighting a bloody battle on the front lines with the demon race, he was cut off by the enemy, right? I want to hear Grandpa's story. The old troll shook his head. No, the little troll. Could it have been cut off by a love rival while protecting Grandma? The old troll was silent for a while, and finally decided to tell the truth. You might not believe it, but Grandpa's arm was cut off by a door. Chapter 227. Because of his physique, Wang Ming had been unable to cultivate since he was a child. Even though he had the strongest brain, he was still rather envious of Wang Ling's innate realm. What on earth did cultivation feel like? Wang Ming actually really wanted to experience it. However, this was just a thought, because if one wanted to become an outstanding modern cultivator, the pressure was actually quite great. Modern cultivation emphasized quality education, and the long Outyan cultivation philosophy of killing gods and Buddhas in their way had long since become a thing of the past. To be a cultivator now, not only did one have to have outstanding ability, one also had to be able to shoulder a certain degree of social responsibility. In contrast, Wang Ming felt that the pressure on Wang Ling was much greater than on him. Wang Ling's daily life was like holding his breath in water, and he had to do everything in his power to reduce his presence. Apart from that, he also had to think about how to save the world. The problem was that these troubles had come knocking on Wang Ling's door of their own accord, and he had never thought about getting involved at all. The appearance of the gate between worlds could probably be considered a major event that would shock the world. This time, Wang Ling had casually closed the gate, and in passing had also snapped off a demon king's arm, invisibly saving the world once again. Who knew what other troubles there would be in the future? Wang Ming looked at Wang Ling's unusually quiet face, and his heart instantly ached for his little brother. After all, he was only 16 years old. About 3 minutes after Wang Ling had closed the gate between worlds dissipated into an illusory image, and this more than 100 feet tall gate gradually disappeared, as if it had dissolved into the air. It's gone just like that? Wang Ming heaved a long sigh of relief, looking a little tired. When he had faced the gate between worlds just now, the shock and impact had been so strong that it had been more thrilling than riding a roller coaster. At that moment, a voice came from the side. The artifact spirit of the gate between worlds disappeared 1,000 years ago. Otherwise it wouldn't have disappeared so quickly. Now every time the gate between worlds is opened, it consumes a lot of demon energy as a power source. Once the gate is closed, and there's no new power source, the gate between worlds will automatically disappear. Wang Ming turned his head to look, and realized that at some point, a green-furred Akita had appeared behind him. Wang Ming suddenly remembered that Father Wang seemed to have mentioned to him before that there was a dog in Wang Ling's class that the Wang family wanted to foster. It was just that Wang Ming hadn't expected this dog's identity to be anything but simple. Not only did it know the gate between worlds like the back of its hand, it could actually speak the human language. How do you know so much about the gate between worlds? Wang Ming blinked as he stared at Loopy Toad. Although it was all in the past. But every time it mentioned this, Loopy Toad's eyes couldn't help welling up with sparkling tears. Loopy Toad. Because I came out of it back then. This king was a very proud toad back then. Wang Ming. Loopy Toad. Until after I landed in the human world, little Master Ling punched me in the stomach. Wang Ling and Wang Ming. Wang Ming rubbed his chin, still finding it a little strange. You say you're a toad, so how on earth did you become a dog? It's a long story. Loopy Toad sighed, and at the same time felt a little frantic in its heart. How on earth did I end up like this? Can you two brothers at least have some King idea? Looking at Loopy Toad, Wang Ming suddenly thought of a saying. It used to be a king. Later it said forget it. Many screens flickered in the conference room. The old secretary stared at them with an unprecedentedly deep look in his eyes. Headmaster Chen was a little baffled. Secretary Dakong, what's wrong? The old secretary frowned. I don't know if it's an illusion, but I feel a different kind of fluctuation in the small world. Although the source of this small world is that old man Yi Jianchuan's, I was also responsible for the basic construction of some nomological laws when this small world was established back then. As it turned out, the old secretary's feeling wasn't wrong. The appearance of the gate between worlds in the small world had caused a ruckus, but Wang Ming had completely blocked out the broadcast in that area. In fact, the monitoring equipment in Ajua's hand had already detected this fluctuation. It was like a hillside, like a roller coaster, that had reached a critical level that couldn't be detected. After about 3 minutes, it suddenly dropped and returned to normal. Ajua knew that something must have happened to his Shifu in the small world. But in the end, he couldn't hide it from the old secretary. Pretending to look at the data, Ajua pretended to be calm as he reported. There was indeed a 3-minute anomaly in the monitoring data just now, but it very quickly returned to normal. This is probably a system error. System error? The old secretary frowned, because that power had been too real and very dangerous. However, it didn't seem like it could be emitted by an evil spirit. The old secretary could feel the righteous aura contained in that abruptly erupting power. Really, it was like divine punishment, very pure. Was it really just an illusion? Last time, at the Spirit Sword Exchange meet between number 59 High School and number 60 High School, I felt the same aura. The old secretary stroked his beard stubble, with a puzzled look in his eyes. It was just that the aura back then had been very brief, and hadn't been as strong as this time. It had only appeared for a while. Ajua sweated a little. He already knew what the aura the old secretary was talking about was. After a spirit sword stayed with its master for a long time, the aura it gave off would be similar to that of its master. Thus, the aura the old secretary had felt last time had actually been emitted by Jinka. Ajua looked around and noticed that Patriarch Reliance, who was sitting next to Headmaster Chun, also seemed to have something to say. This patriarch was probably the strongest of the 6 headmasters. Furthermore, he was an old senior addicted to seclusion, and his perception was almost unusually sensitive. What should he do? Was he going to be exposed? There was a little panic in Ajua's eyes. Old secretary headmasters, according to the monitoring data, there's good news. In a moment of desperation, Ajua decided to change the subject. The old secretary raised his eyebrows. What news? Ajua answered truthfully. According to the monitoring data, the fluctuations from the gate between worlds that we detected earlier have now completely disappeared. Disappeared? The old secretary's eyes widened. Then, he got up with a face full of joy and patted Ajua on the shoulder. Little Joazi last time, the younger sister of the master of Shadow Stream was suddenly caught again. And this time, the fluctuations from the gate between worlds mysteriously disappeared. I wasn't wrong, you're a mascot. Ajua. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.